We welcome you for Contenders Trials. It's Labosco here alongside my partner in crime, Kenobi, getting ready for our first game of today. It is going to be Young and Beautiful versus Vox Nihili and Kenobi. We've got a very good one that we get to start with here because we have the two teams at the top of Group A going at it.
And I think it's also going to be a very important matchup as well, Labosco, because this will set the tone a little bit for both of these teams and for the group in general going forward. You know, whoever takes the win today is going to have a little bit of room between them and the rest of the competition now, already getting that 3-0 record where one of them is going to be 2-1, which is still fine, but you're near more of the bottom of the pack. And only two teams are going to be going through the top two in this group of five in Group A. So for both of these teams, I think this is a very important matchup and one that they both really would like to win.
And you want to make it out of groups, obviously, to get into contenders. But the other thing is too is if you end up in that bottom five, you go right back into trials. So you have a bit of a wait before anything happens too. Like it's just one of those things where it just benefits you so much more to get into contenders than to be stuck sort of in limbo that sort of trials becomes if you're stuck in it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not the worst case scenario. If you're going to lose this one, this is just for them to get the first seed, whoever wins this, because the rest of the teams, you know, Young and Beautiful is technically in second because they have one less map win than Vox Nihili does, but beneath them is Dreadlords, who are 0-1. So it's not the worst thing if you're losing this matchup. You aren't necessarily out of the running entirely. You're just closer to the rest of the field. Whereas if you're the winner of this matchup, you probably guarantee yourself that trials or that contenders spot. So for both of these teams, definitely one that they both want to win. And if we look at the rosters, Labosco, a lot of, especially on Yab, a lot of names that we are very familiar with. You and I have been covering Tier 2 for a very long time. We've seen a lot of the Yab players at World Cup as well on the Netherlands team. So I think for Yab specifically, a lot of big names here that so far with their 2-0 record have been living up to the hype.
Yeah, one of those players that we're seeing play really well is Yikids, who's been playing the Genji for Young and Beautiful. Obviously, there's more to the meta than just the Genji Kenobi, but the Genji has become really an integral part of the current state of Overwatch.
Right, and it's because of all the buffs that he's been given recently as well, where he's now become this he's not necessarily as much of a raid boss as he was when Brigitte could give him armor packs, like we saw in Overwatch League recently in the Summer Showdown, but he is still very strong. I think you have to play it a little bit differently now because you don't have the ability to just go in, get armor pack, and then get out for free. You have to play a little bit more carefully around your halts, around the enemy teams, Genji, and how they're going to be playing around you. So I think for what I'm going to be looking out for with both of these Genjis is how they play. Are they going to be super aggressive, like a Sparkle type of Genji? Or are they going to be more like an EQO where it's very measured and very patient until the right moment is there where you can go in safely and then get out?
Well, we have to, of course, talk about Vox Nihili as well. You talk about another team that has been playing well and also has been kind of showing us some different looks, too, as far as what they've been doing. They've been actually playing a little bit more with the Mei out there. Like Pingu has been playing the Mei on this team, so a bit of a different kind of contrasting styles. Kurama is coming at times too to play Tracer, so they haven't been playing the Genji as much.
And that's I think it's a philosophy that's interesting to me, that they aren't, if they aren't playing the Genji. I mean, I believe I've seen Vox Nihili play it a little bit, but they have been sticking more towards the Mei and the Tracer, which is something that actually the San Francisco Shock were doing a lot when we saw them in the Summer Showdown, where they believed that the Tracer and their Mei play was good enough that it could beat the Genji, which at some points it did. But I think Genji just offers so much in the current meta, just in terms of damage output, Dragon Blade, everything that he brings to the table is a lot. So for Vox Nihili, if you're going to be playing the Mei, you're going to be playing the Tracer, it really has to be shining through both of those characters, and they really have to keep the Genji in check, because if they don't, the Genji's just going to slice and dice through their team.
Yeah, one thing to remember, everybody, too, first to two. It's kind of a weird thing. I know I'm not usually used to something like that, but does change things up at least a little bit, Kenobi. Our first map is going to be Oasis, and that also changes things up because we're going to City Center first, and we know that this is an area with a lot of high ground, so you can maybe put your Ash somewhere up on the top to kind of get some good sight lines. It's really about control of that high ground at times, but also just trying to control the point can be a pain.
Yeah, I mean, you could also, we could see dive here possibly. It has crept up a little bit in the meta and in some of the trials games that we've seen. D.Va did recently get some buffs as well, so maybe a slight possibility that we could see that, as well as for this map in particular that we're going to when we're going to Oasis, is that we can see, instead of Ashe, maybe a soldier that can take control of the high ground. But I think for when I look at both of these teams again, what I'm looking out for and what I want to see is Vox and Nihili, are they going to be opting more for the Genji? And for Yab, what are they going to do? Because we know Jonah, your kids rather, is the one who plays of Genji, plays a very good Genji, and that's a matchup I'm looking forward to. But it looks like if as we're going out of spawn, neither team wants to do that. Maybe you kids. Obviously, cast or curse myself because you kids going to Vector TP, and then he's going to either switch back to the Torb or he's going to go to Genji. So he's opting for the Torb. So this is going to be very difficult right now. This is a very good read from what Yab is doing, because they think that there is going to be dive, so they're taking up a Torbjorn, which is super good against dive. McCree also very good against dive. I love this read from what Yab is doing already.
So Young and Beautiful, like you said, coming out, trying to deal with that dive, and so far, so good. Both supports already down for Vox Nihili, and this is going to be Young and Beautiful taking control of the point with relative ease. Like you said, Kenobi, this composition just too strong against the dive.
It's just a hard counter, Labasco. I mean, you saw Nat even hit a huge anti-nade, but Yab just wins the fight off of the back of the sustain, and look how difficult it is for Ido to really do anything in this backline, trying to use those flanks, and now Vox Nihili has switched to a composition where it's the Sigma and the Hammond, not necessarily a tank line I've seen too much or that I like as much as I like with the Winston Diva.
Right, much easier lineup to control too if you're Young and Beautiful with that double shield. You really just have to worry about the Wrecking Ball coming in and kind of disrupting. You've got Pingu getting close to the blade, but they're very hesitant to do anything here. They're just kind of waiting for things to get into place, and while that happens, Nat falls.
Yeah, I mean they're playing so just scared of the dive defense, which is basically what Yab is meant to do here. It's very difficult for Vox Nihili to dive onto anyone because of all the sustain they have, the ACC that they have as well. Vox Nihili has to play it so safely, and by that point, Yab are already making some moves, getting that kill onto Nat at the start. Very good for them. And Vox Nihili now, with 60% for Yab, you're going to get one more shot at this. You have one Nano Blade that's coming up soon. That has to be the thing that carries you to a fight win.
The only problem is there's Immortality Field available to take care of that. You also have the Amplification Matrix that Blade is going to go into. A lot that needs to go right for Vox Nihili. They at least get the Torbjorn turret at the start, but now out comes the Amplification Matrix. Nice start of the Blade, double kill, and Pingu makes it work. But now they've used that ultimate battery together, Kenobi, and they've got some ultimates coming up on the side of Young and Beautiful.
So you did win the fight for Vox Nihili. Probably took a little bit longer to get that Nano Blade than you would have absolutely liked to have had. But look at Yab's ultimate economy, Bosco. They just used the window in that last fight. They said, okay, we use window. They use their Nano Blade, so 2 ults for the price of 1. And now their win condition for Vox Nihili is you get a really good Pulse Bomb from Ido. There's nothing else. Yab should very easily just walk into this point and win with their ultimate economy.
And that's exactly what they're doing. Already have the Sigma low and Jaru. The Pulse Bomb comes out, takes care of the turret, but that's all. Gravitic Flux to try and counter the aggression coming out from Young and Beautiful, stalls them for the moment. Supercharger comes down, and Young and Beautiful just advancing forward. These players keeping themselves distant, and now they can dive on and take advantage of it. Like you said, a huge ante coming out from Nat to get the win for Vox Nihili, and now the percentages start to get close to even.
And I said that this was going to be a very easy fight for Yab to win, and it realistically should have been, but it was some really nice kiting from Vox Nihili, getting away from those important ultimates. They let the rally go through, they let the supercharger go through, didn't play as aggressive as they kind of want to with a dive composition like this, and then a huge nade from Nat caps everything off. So now Vox Nihili's the one who's in the driver's seat, Labasso, because they have Nano Blade currently, and they're at 72%. They can very easily end the map right here.
This could be what gets them the early advantage. They haven't lost a map yet here, too, in this tournament at +4. And Nat already down, though, so they're not even going to get the chance to Nano Blade. Ido evens things up, though. Blade comes out, swipes through one, but Pingu goes down. Ido, though, keeping them alive for Vox Nihili. An even fight on either side. Control the point still in favor of Vox.
Ido popping off right now on this Tracer, doing so much damage, but the sustain is still there from Yab.
So you have to find those last few kills, and Nat back in already uses the ultimate right onto Ido, who has been carrying. Switch over from Pingo onto the Soldier 76 just to get back to the point quickly and have that consistent damage. And Vox Nihili have this in control, have to deal with the Lucio and the Moira, and they will win this point.
Very well done from Vox Nihili, coming back from a position where they had a very rough start to this map with their dive, and then, I mean, yeah, realistically, in that fight where they had such an advantage, they should have won that, but Vox Nihili, great presence of mind from them, understanding that they were at a disadvantage, so they had to play very safely around the ultimates coming out from Yab, and then it's a very, very well-placed nade from Nat, who's had a couple of really good ones, Labasco, in that last sub-map, so for Vox Nihili, coming back from the brink of basically defeat and winning that sub-map is very good for them.
Without a doubt. Now we get to see some more just things that are not quite what we have seen be the most dominant composition. We now get Doomfist and May on the side of Vox Nihili.
And this is a map, obviously, where a lot of brawl is going to happen in these closed-in quarters areas. Doomfist, very good. There's a lot of walls he can punch people into. And Yab sticking more to the Genji instead, so it doesn't have that one-shot potential. A nice wall at the start, though.
Jaru having to be careful, getting to half health, but getting healed up nicely. Ido going in for the punch on a Dance. Gets some help from Pingu to get that first elimination. Rocket punching back through, misses. Yikids in the meantime is able to take down Jaru, but there's still another main tank available for the side of Vox Nihili, and they are slowly getting control. The pressure from Ido is a little bit too much to handle for this team. In Young and Beautiful, they have to back away.
And I actually really like the idea of the Doomfist on this map. It is a map, like I said, he does have a lot of prominence and can do a lot of things with the walls that are around everyone. And the Doomfist already, as you can see, Ido showing 75%. He has a lot of value already on this matchup. And it's going to be very difficult now for Yab to recontest into here. They don't have a lot of ultimates to work with. The one thing that they're going to be looking out for, Labasco, is getting that amplification matrix to push in aggressively onto Vox Nihili and break those shields and push them back onto point.
Jaru, the first shield that they're going to have to get through. They throw the wall up, blocks a little bit of this coalescence, but now Nat has no problem getting on to the majority of Young and Beautiful, and Young and Beautiful in a really rough spot here early on.
Luckily enough for them, though, Labasco, they are going to have ultimates to work with when they come into this next fight. They have both of their tank ultimates, whereas Vox Nihili, Shatter was thrown out by Jaru. The main thing is that Jonah has not gotten a lot of value with the Mei so far. As you can see, Pingu has that Blizzard, and Jonah only 53% to his, so it's not really the best for them.
Amplification matrix down too. Have to be careful with the Blizzard, though. It will keep them away from that amp matrix. Now you have outcome the sound mirror, so now Yikids knows he can blade freely, looking for that first target, finds the Moira, but gets taken out by an icicle from Pingu, evening things back up. Young and Beautiful's best chance starting to slowly go away, but now they start to turn it around. Dan swinging through with the hammer, gets to Brusin, gets another, and now it's just the Mei. Young and Beautiful stop the bleeding at 86% for Vox Nihili.
Dan's the man on a mission there, and as we can see, Jonas is able to get finally towards that Blizzard, so this is some advantage that Yab is going to have going into this next fight. Luckily, Nat does have that coalescence, so he can counter it and keep some people sustained inside of it.
Got extreme value from it last time, but Jaru gets caught in the Blizzard. This is a lost fight before it even starts for Vox Nihili. They're just going to back out, but they get ultimates out, Kenobi, at the very least.
That's the biggest thing as well, Labasco, and I said there is the coalescence. There is that coalescence ability to keep people sustained in Blizzard, but at that point, it's not really worth it. And I think that's a very good decision because now you have it for this fight, and you can basically go in aggressively knowing that there isn't anything to stop you like that Mei Blizzard.
The only thing they'll have to worry about is this Ant Matrix. The wall goes up to block it, and Yikids in the meantime is able to rocket punch Ido and take him out of the fight. So no value coming through from this coalescence. They're without one of the most impact players in the Doomfist.
And NKZ used that supercharger as well. I mean, an absolutely disgusting halt from Bruce and comboed with that window did so much damage, and now Yab is coming, or continuing to get on this defense. Here's a shatter from top rope.
Nothing comes from it. The counter shatter, even better from Jaru. And Vox Nihili well in control. Another blizzard built up to already for Pingu too. And now it's just Jonah stalling for as long as possible. Is actually able to get that flip over, but it's already done, and Vox Nihili get it back.
Yab are going to get one more shot at this Labasco. They can be able to touch. It's only 91%. Jonah has the Blizzard ready and available. Nothing on the other side for Vox Nihili.
Vox Nihili coming in. Ido in with the punch. Comes back down. Meteor strikes from both of the Doomfists. A player taken out on either side. Now you have the sound barriers being matched, but a slight favor for Vox Nihili, but Ido gets frozen. So it goes back to even in hand. And
no
Dan
way.
combining, shattering through. And now you only have 2 players left for Vox Nihili. Young and beautiful, getting the win, and now have the chance to win this point. Maybe one more fight for Vox Nihili.
That was nuts from Young and Beautiful, and they're going to stagger this D.Va here, so there's not going to be a full attack here for Vox Nihili, and they're going into a supercharger as well.
They're trying to stop them before they can get to the point, trying to cut them off with that supercharger. Coalescence dealing a lot of damage in. Immortality field down, and Dalek gets a double kill on the Lucio to keep them in front. Yiquids with the uppercut, and now this is all Young and Beautiful. Goodbye, Wrecking Ball, off the map. And we're going to have ourselves a 3rd point to determine our winner on Oasis. On the shatter at the end. Doesn't matter, but it's always funny to see the rocket punch stop like that.
That was pretty slick from Jar. Not gonna lie, that was pretty nice. Didn't matter at all. But man, I love seeing Doomfist play Lavasco. Doomfist is one of those characters that is very, very fun to broadcast and very fun to just cast over. And we saw there from both you kids and from Ido some very good plays coming out from both of them. So I think on this map, Doomfist not going to have the same amount of prevalence because there's not a lot of those closed encounters and walls that you can play around. He's not at that point where he's so strong where you can play on basically any map. So I think we're going to go back towards some different stuff for Vox Nihili. They're showing us kind of what we saw way back at the start of the year with the meta, where we see the Reinhardt and we see the D.Va mixed with the Mei and the McCree. So this is a blast from the past coming out from them. And from Yab, we do see more of the Mei and the Tracer instead.
Mei Tracer can be a very good combo too, of course, freezing players up. That burst potential from the Tracer to take a target out. The wall goes up from Vox, and Nihili is so good, splits off part of Young and Beautiful, and they will get first control. They do lose their Lucio, though, in Froki at the end, so have to be careful they don't lose anyone else to Jonah, who's been pretty good on that Tracer.
Trade's still coming out, and it looks like I don't know if Yab should continue to try and stagger this. Maybe they just want to have a reset, but looks like they're actually going to try and aggress onto this point, Lavasco. This fight's still going on.
Yeah, they did manage to get 2 picks there at the end. They've got NKZ out of the mech too, so they have the opportunity. NKZ pooped off the map, and Dan's cleaving through. Young and Beautiful turning this around. Have to deal with the Moira on the point, and now just the Mei. This is a very good retake that comes through. They only give up 26% to Vox and Nihili for Young and Beautiful.
But Young and Beautiful did use ultimates in that last fight, Lavasco. They used the Shatter and they used the Amplification Matrix as well, whereas for Vox and Nihili, they didn't really have a lot of ultimates to work with. They only had the Coalescence from that. So now they're going to have the advantage when they come into this next fight with the sustain and with the damage that Coalescence brings. This should be Vox and Nihili having a retake unless you kids can make something happen with this Blizzard that he has.
We've seen them be able to stifle the value that Nat would want out of the Coalescence before, too.
Okay.
But we're going to have a pause before we can find out what's going to happen in this next fight, Kenobi. So we'll have to wait and see what will end up happening. Jaru also has the Shatter, too. Jaru's had some really good Shatters already in this game, too.
I mean, you did see that last one on the Doomfist, right? Where in that last that was a pretty nice Shatter as well. And right. I like that where if you can just see right now, Yab is holding on the high ground. I think this is very smart from them because they obviously understand that Ryan does have a Shatter, so it's good alt tracking coming out from them. So you don't want to play on the low ground and have the opportunity for someone like Jaru to hit you with a huge Shatter. You play on that high ground, you use the advantage that you have with your Baptiste poke, and you can just basically make life a living hell for a Reinhardt walking into you and having it to hold his shield up.
Right, and then you also have a lot of places you can escape to off of the high ground as well, so you can try and hide from, say, the Coalescence that could come out and just try and beam you down from the low ground. I think we're almost ready to come right back into the map here, Kenobi. So we're gonna jump right back into this in just a second, just waiting to make sure everybody's ready. I don't even know who we lost because nobody dropped either. Is the funny thing.
And maybe some like incident, spilled water on your keyboard, possible.
Yeah. There's been plenty of instances, I think, in even Overwatch League where players have done that, where they spill water onto their own keyboards. Well, nice wall to come right back in, splitting Jaru off, use the coalescence to make sure that he stays alive on the other side of that wall. And they're starting to get aggressive for Vox and Nihili into the face of Young and Beautiful. Pulse Bomb coming out, misses from Jonah. Along in the alley, Aido gets taken down, frozen by Ping and Brucin with the nice accretion rock, though, evening things back up. And now you kids gets frozen. Sound Barrier, though, they're still trying to keep this for Young and Beautiful. Blizzard getting no value at all, though, for Pingu is the only problem. They have this fight, but the stall is mighty from the Lucio and the Tracer.
Yeah, that Blizzard was not my favorite there from Pingu, and the stall is going to continue to come through. Yeah, they've actually gotten some pretty good percentage charge on here as well, Labasco, and they might tick up towards 70%, 75% at this rate.
End up getting to 72, so pretty close to what you said. And Young and Beautiful in a pretty good spot, but ultimates are loaded on either side.
Both sides, but the main thing is that Yab is going to have the Blizzard where Pingu is not going to have his. Luckily enough, Froki is at 51%, so there's a possibility that he'll be able to get that the sound barrier in time for the Blizzard, but it has to be very fastly charged here.
We've seen so many Baptiste, it's hard to not think about using that ability, but you do have Can who has it, so there is at least one amplification matrix out there. Dan's going in, and Young and Beautiful obliterating the team on the high ground, and Vox Nihili, no chance. This can stall for a little bit, but it only lasts so long, and Young and Beautiful get the flip right back.
Dan's just man-moded that fight, Labasco. That was just Dan saying, okay, I just want to win. I want to win this fight. It's an insane shatter onto the entirety of Vox Nihili, and I like this flank so much from them.
Blizzard coming out, gets eaten, though, by NKZ. Jaru making this hurt, though, for YAB, as now Young and Beautiful are on the back foot. They have to now try and back away. They're going to give this point up. Jaru is like, I can swing the hammer, too.
That is disastrous from Yab there. I like the idea of making that rotation and catching them off guard, knowing that you have close to, if you win that fight, you basically win the round and win the map here, but a very good heads-up play from MKZ, eating that Blizzard, which was the win condition of the fight for Yab there, and now we're getting into last fight, Labasco. This is the only one we're going to get. Brucin has Gravitic Flux online, but Froki has the sound barrier to counter it.
NKZ up on the high ground right now, just looking for a target to sort of jump onto and deal some damage in. Been really good. Have that huge eat on the Blizzard. Gravitic Flux coming out, grabs 4. Sound Barrier used in response. Earth Shatter coming through from Jaru. Manages to get 2, and they both go down. Young and Beautiful falling behind, and the Coalescence making sure that everyone stays alive for Vox Nihili, and this is their control point to lose. It's just Jonah can't do it by himself, and Vox Nihili will take that 1-0 lead, winning the control point off of Young and Beautiful.
It's like a battle of the Reinhardts, Labasco, from what we saw in that last map. I mean, Jaru there, an absolutely nut shatter coming out from him, especially because he was able to get the support in Khan, takes him down. The Baptiste, that means you don't have Immortality Field, you don't have Sustain. He was also very close towards that window, so if he had stayed alive, there was a possibility that Yab wins that sub-map, but it was very close, I think, between both of these teams, and it's to be expected when we have both of these teams that are at the top of their group so far, both 2-0.
It also feels like this might be the biggest outlier of it all, too, just because it's control. So it's hard to know. And Young and Beautiful has already lost a control map previously in this tournament. This has been their weakest mode. So moving on from here, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how things start to play out. If we start to see the composition that's sort of become the norm right now, which is that poke style. But both of these teams have shown clearly they've got more than just that poke comp that they can play.
And I think it was also map dependent as well. Some of the compositions that we saw, like the Doomfist, I don't expect to see Doomfist that much anytime soon in any of the other maps that we're going to be playing. But we did see some Genji poke coming out from, I believe it was Yab who played it.
Yeah,
and I think also Fox and Haley actually, they played like GT Dive, which was also really interesting as well to me. So I think the variety that we've seen from both of these teams is pretty awesome coming just from that one control map. And I'm interested to see how it carries over into the next maps that we're going to be having.
Yeah, so Route 66 is our next map, by the way. So we already know where we're going, it looks like. So
I would
Route
say,
60, yeah.
I would say probably Genji Poke is probably the best comp. I mean, I think it's the best comp in general right now. There's opportunities to play things like Dive if they really want to.
Right.
You can also play Widow. That is another option. That especially on Route 66 where you have a lot of these long sightlines that you can play around, but Ashe is just offers so much in terms of utility with the Dynamite, with Bob, with Coach Gun. A lot of these options are really good for them, so it could go either way. I think it's also a comfort pick. Like if you're feeling yourself as a Widowmaker, or as a hits game player, and you're like, I want to play some Widowmaker, this is the map to do it. This is the map where you can like pop up on a Widowmaker.
Yeah, Route 66 has some iconic like Widowmaker moments for sure, and always seems to have it when you're playing too in just any sort of comp or even quick play. I feel like
they happen against me. I'm on the receiving end of a lot of those Widow plays.
Yeah, I tend to be the one playing the Widow more so than getting hit by the Widow. So
I'm just playing Orisa, just walking along, and my shield breaks, and then I get hit in the head for 300 damage, and then I die. That's just how it is sometimes on Route 66.
Yeah, it definitely is. Route 66 is a fun map, that's for sure. So it's you know what else is fun, Kenobi? What you have going on with the LA Gladiators right now in supporting Tier 2. I think that's also pretty fun.
That is definitely fun. I think all the support we can always get for Tier 2 is always great. And I think the more support from Tier 2 from everyone is always great. I mean, when Fran was doing the Community Cup, seeing all of those Overwatch League teams like retweet and post it and signal it out, it was actually really cool to see all of them supporting Tier 2, and I think the way the Glads are doing it right now here with Monkey Bubble is also very cool.
The Baby Bay one is pretty funny. But you know what else is cool about this, about being glad for Tier 2, is you have an opportunity to win something cool. If you get first place, you have the chance to win a LA Gladiators Staples jersey. All you have to do that is have the hashtag glad for Tier 2, glad for T2 on a tweet. Don't have it be obscene or anything. That basically the best meme is going to win. There's also a second and third place prize. Make some funny tweets. I know Big Hungry Phil had a pretty darn good one that he did earlier. So it's definitely cool to see. And we can see here, as far as the compositions we're seeing, Kenobi, for the defense, I don't think it's much of a shock that we are seeing what is considered the best comp, that poke comp with the Ashe and the Genji.
Yep, this is just standard right here from both these teams. No wrinkles like Widowmaker or anything. It is going to be standard Genji Poke versus Genji Poke. And what I'm looking out for when I watch both of these compositions is how the Genjis are going to play, because obviously Genji Blade, a very, very good ultimate right now. And I wonder how both these Genjis are going to play around the halts. Are they going to use, halt dash? Is that something that people are going to be using to try and farm that blade a lot quicker than the enemy team? Those are things to look out for. So keep your eyes on those ultimate charges for both Genjis here as we go into this team's fight.
Halt still one of the strongest abilities in the game. There's no doubt about that. Has been nerfed a little bit, but still extremely strong. Iggy's just been playing with the team right now as far as that style is concerned. And Jaru is the one who will find the elimination to start it off for Vox Nihili. Jonah and Pan falling. Yikid's now starting to get a little aggressive after he loses some teammates, but this is a lost battle for Young and Beautiful.
Yeah, once Jonah dies there, nice ghost dash, by the way, from Pingu. That was really well played. Once Jonah dies there, it's very easy for Vox Nihili to just get aggressive and say, okay, you don't have a hit scan option. There's no dynamite like that. We can very easily rush onto you. We have the numbers advantage and the damage advantage as well. So for Vox Nihili, good start from them. Already taking a minute away from Yab. As you can see, Pingu already in the advantage when it comes to that Dragon Blade. So he will have it way before Yikits does.
Really, the closest ultimate right now is Yikids, or actually now Bruisin. Bruisin just went ahead, but a lot of ultimates not close for Young and Beautiful is the thing. So now they've got to try and deal with this amplification matrix from Vox and Nihili, and they're going to just lose more time as a result because they don't really have anything that can. They now try to pull players off of the high ground with the halt, but Young and Beautiful kind of just stuck right now, alternating between two different places. Yikid's got a little bit low, but not too much that you have to worry about. So really good spot right now for Vox and Nihili, still controlling the high ground.
Both Genji Blades going to be available right here. Labasco, we'll see what they can each do. Nat is forced to use Immortality Field. That's huge.
Yikid's coming through already with one, finds a second with the swipe through, and Young and Beautiful is going to be able to move this cart around towards the doors. Maybe one more fight for Vox and Nihili.
Very good from Young and Beautiful. They're forcing out the Immortality Field from Nat, and once that is gone, they know very easily this is the freest Dragon Blade we're ever going to have. They're not even going to be able to step on the cart, Labasco, so a point take already from Yab off of that one fight. Now they're going to be moving into this point B Streets phase with 4 minutes left. Unfortunately, they're going up against an ultimate bloodbath from Vox and Nihili, mainly the Genji Blade available for Pingu. We'll see if they try and force that Immortality Field before he wants to use it.
Like you said, Immortality Field, really the most important thing that you're looking out for as that Genji amplification matrix out, have the gravitic flux come up, players getting thrown down extremely low, and now the blade is out. Too much damage from the Bob and the blade.
Smooth as you like there from Vox and Nihili. They use the gravitic flux early, force out the Immortality Field from Khan, and then again a free blade for Pingu on the back end. So 3 minutes now for but they're going to come back and they're going to be the ones to have the advantage now when it comes to that gravitic flux ultimate. They don't have a Genji Blade to combo with it just yet, so this shouldn't be as hard of a win as Vox and Nihili just had.
See if they wait for Yikids to get that ultimate or not. They're backing away, have to use the Immortality Field extremely early, and you're seeing a very aggressive Vox and Nihili as a result, and they get the vital pick onto Can. So now you have to wait because you need that Baptiste healing and that Baptiste Immortality Field.
I absolutely love that aggressiveness from Vox and Nihili there, Labasco. Not standing on ceremony, not waiting for Yab to get up onto the high ground and get into a place where they want to set up and have their attack. Vox and Nihili puts the pressure on them and forces them back and milks more time off of the clock. So really nice pressure coming out from Vox and Nihili.
Really early use of the ultimate coming through from Young and Beautiful for the rally, but it doesn't matter. The amplification matrix just tears through Young and Beautiful, and Vox Nihili on this high ground. Hey, the cart hasn't even moved yet on this second part of the phase of the.
That was a complete slaughter, Labasco. The window right in front of that area. Everyone's just funneling through it like it's D-Day. And everyone goes down on Yab, and Vox Nihili continuing to just hold the line here and are able to farm up some of their more important ultimates like that Genji Blade.
Using it with the Bob in conjunction. Again, have to be careful though. A lot of damage from the Supercharger and the Amplification Matrix, and it's too much for Vox and Nihili to handle. They lose a bunch of players and now have in just the worst position possible NKZ. Nice rock too onto Pingu. And they get the cart moving, and they still have the blade that they can use in this next fight, Kenobi.
But I actually think that is such a fight win for Vox Nihili there, because you force out a lot of important ultimates from Yab. You force out Supercharger, you force out the Bob and the window as well. So Vox Nihili can come back. They have their gravitic flux. They're probably going to get their Supercharger in this next fight. So they're going to have the advantage when it comes to those important tank ultimates here. And the blade might not even matter.
Right, could get caught in the gravitic flux if it's used for that, or just grab so many players where it doesn't even matter. But out comes the blade now. The Immortality Field quickly taken care of, but Yikid's too good with the blade, gets the value needed out of it, and Young and Beautiful is going to be able to get onto this final part of the map.
The gravitic flux just not in the right position, and I think Yab caught Vox Nihili completely off guard there. They weren't expecting such an aggressive blade coming out from Yikids, and NKZ, a desperate gravitic flux at the end that gets no value whatsoever. You really want to be using that to try and hinder the Genji from slicing and dicing your backline. So for Yab, they get another life here on this third point. They have gravitic flux available to them. They're going to have the advantage in that regard.
Gravitic Flux out, manages to catch one, but stunned out of it, so no value for the Gravitic Flux. So that's one ultimate out of the way for Vox Nihili. Young and Beautiful too. Oh, through that amplification matrix to go down to the hyperspheres from NKZ, and Vox Nihili quickly back into control.
Amplification matrices from Nat this entire series so far, Lebowski, have been extremely well played. We saw it on that second phase in Streets where they just walk right into it, and there hits a nice one, gives it ability for NKZ to farm more of his ultimate charge as well. Nat has been playing very well on this Baptiste so far, and I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing.
Very good play from the Baptiste. They see him there for a second too. And now the blade from Pingu, but the Bob will actually keep Pingu away, so they get some ultimates out for Young and Beautiful. Trade one of their own, though.
They trade the Bongo out as well, which is a very important key ult that Yab is going to have an advantage of over Vox Nihili now comes this push.
Especially when you put it down with the Amplification Matrix. Still haven't used, though, that Supercharger yet, just trying to win off the back of the Amp Matrix. The Gravitic Flux coming out, pulls out one, but they're not getting enough value out of the ultimate. Pingu goes down. They do push on with Brokey and company to get Bruce in, and Jaro on that flank. They managed to get two more. Young and Beautiful was at an advantage, and they're losing it.
Jar just popped off, and I don't think I've ever said that about an Orisa. Gets in the kill feed with a 4K, and there's only 4 seconds left, Lebowski. They have to get a desperate touch from Dala, but he gets obliterated before he can even do so. And the win condition for Vox Nihili is there. Just get it to this point, and you take the series 2-0.
They were down 2 or 3-2 for Vox Nihili in that fight, and then that flank just results in them getting 4 to get them an advantage, Kenobi. It's a wild way that one ends, because Young and Beautiful looks like they're in a position of control.
And that was the interesting thing for me, is that in a fight that should have been won, Vox Nihili won it, and it's kind of been back and forth between that so far this entire series. We're back on when we were talking about Oasis, where there was a fight that Yab basically was in the driver's seat for a lot of the time, right? They had an ultimate economy advantage. They could have won that fight very easily. And then Vox Nihili is able to win these fights where they're at a disadvantage. So having that ability to do that is actually incredibly valuable, I would say.
Oh, no doubt. And, you know, win condition set and everything else. And we know what compositions we're going to get. Nothing's really going to change here. So
the Ana's interesting though. That's I don't expect this coming out from that, because his Baptiste play has been incredible so far.
Right.
And I've been very impressed with Immortality Field timing, the window usage, and the coordination with the rest of the team has been really good. It does offer the ability to just make your Genji even more raid boss-esque if you're using Ana and Brig, because you can pocket the heck out of him. So we'll see if Nat decides to do this. I don't.
No.
Just trying to get to sleep, and then we'll see.
Yeah, it looks. Yeah.
Imagine if he had hit that.
I respect it. I respect it. It would. I'd be going nuts. We both would be.
That would have been a highlight reel. We would have gotten Crook to put that on our social media.
We know that we would have seen. Crook is so good at social media too.
Hard agree.
Just I wish.
Shout out to Crook.
Yes, I wish I had talent and was funny. Like, it must be pretty awesome. Nice dash through. A lot of value for Pingu with the help of that ult. And Brucein is actually able to take the first initial pick, though, for Young and Beautiful. Gets his own life taken as a result, though. And Ido hits a nice dynamite on to Yikids, who ends up getting healed back up, though, so no problem yet. But Pingu building up so fast to this blade, and this is eventually going to be Vox Nihili winning this fight.
Huge flank from Pingu there. Understands that the Baptiste is a little bit out of position, and Pingu goes and assassinates him. And with Baptiste Brig, if you lose the Baptiste, you've lost almost the 75% or 80% of all of your healing, because Brig, while she does have the healing output when it's in these enclosed areas, she doesn't really have things like the shift, like the grenade. So getting that pick was absolutely huge for Vox Nihili, and they're running into this next fight. They have a lot of ultimates.
Pulse players in. Dash a little bit late, though, but still enough for Pingu to get the Dragon Blade. Yikids is able to get Brokey, but they don't really need to use any more ultimates for the side of Vox Nihili. They're going to just use the Gravitic Flux to ensure they win this. They just want to make sure that it's sealed, and it's not looking so good anymore. Young and Beautiful is starting to turn this around. They are now throwing in the supercharger too. NKZ can do nothing but watch his life bar go down. And now Vox Nihili is stuck between a Bob and a hard place.
That was so scrappy, Labasco, and somehow, someway, Yab is able to pull it back from the brink. A lot of ultimates committed for both sides in that last fight. As you can see there, NKZ...
Used Blade. I didn't even see that.
Yeah, Pingu used Blade, and NKZ also used that Gravitic Flux to stop the Blades from Yikids, but Yikids is already 40% towards another Blade himself, so he's going to have the advantage in Yab. With 1 minute and 30 seconds left for Vox Nihili, this is very full holdable for them.
This is the worst place for the cart to stop if you are an attacking team. It's so far from your spawn. It's not much of an advantage for the defenders, but you still have such a long walk that it doesn't really matter. And Young and Beautiful taking advantage of how much space you have to cover as Vox Nihili. This is looking dire now.
This is so bad for Vox Nihili. The only saving grace for them is that they're going to have their damage amplification ultimates in the supercharger and in that amplification matrix. But on the other side, there is that Dragon Blade from Yikids, and he's going to have to make something huge happen with it. We'll see what happens. 50 seconds left for Vox Nihili.
One swipe from the Blade can cause disaster for Vox Nihili. They throw down their supercharger to get forward, but they're able to stay away. The bomb from behind from Jonah, too. The Immortality Field's already out. They don't even need the Blade to win this fight, Kenobi.
No one expects the flanking, Ash. Lavasco, no one expects it, and certainly Vox Nihili didn't expect it at all. That bomb, an insane amount of value from Jonah. And for Vox Nihili, that was it. That was your one chance that you were going to have. You get 15 seconds left from this, Labasco. Blade available, but someone's got to touch the car and someone's got to get there quickly.
They don't have any ultimates. They're about to get Blade from Pingu. It's got to be the Blade of a lifetime for them to get the win. Yikid's just patiently waiting for the opportunity to use his. They get the touch from Froki, and now they're down. Blade's coming out from either side. Seeing Yikids go after the Baptiste. Gets the value out of his Blade and not enough value out of Pingu's. Young and Beautiful is going to be able to even this up and tie us at one map apiece. Kenobi.
Well, that's one way to do it, Labasco, is to just, the win condition was set for Vox Nihili, but Yap says, no, we're just going to full hold here. We're going to full hold down for 66. It was just so scrappy from Vox Nihili, something that we didn't expect after the way they played that defense. And Yab, really good from them pouncing on the mistakes that Vox Nihili were making. And we got a series on our hand, Labasco, going to that match point in map 3.
That was crazy the way that one goes too, because Vox Nihili looked pretty good on their, they win that first fight. So you're like, oh, they're going to be able to get the first point pretty easily. And then there's that like sort of extended fight that happens where they get close to the doors and then they just never were able to get it back from there. It's wild how things can turn around, but it doesn't feel like you're seeing a compositional advantage from Young and Beautiful.
No, I think there's just some issues with in terms of, like the fights we were talking about where they should be winning. They're on the defense. Every fight that they should have won, they won, and they pressed their advantage onto Vox Nihili with the ultimate economy that they had. Jonah with that huge flank, which was absolutely nuts. I've never seen an Ashe flank that hard and gives his life for it, but the team wins the team fight after that. So for Yab, those kind of plays from your carry players, I think is what you need a little bit more.
Yes, and this is a map where maybe it gets a little bit easier to do it. We are going to Temple of Anubis, so a little bit more enclosed. Teams are tighter together. A little bit easier to hit people with the Genji Blade if they're all in one spot. So maybe this is what can make the difference for them. This was the map that we get to see here, and Young and Beautiful is going to be defending first on this next map too, Kenobi. And, well, I mean, the last map, it didn't matter who defended first.
Well, sure, but if it's Young and Beautiful are coming off the back of a full hold. So if they're defending first, then if you're Vox Nihili, you're like, oh no, we got full held in our last map. Let's hopefully not get full held again. And Temple of Anubis, a very full holdable map if there ever was one. Also a drawable map. So this series might not even end here, Labasco. We could be going to a map 4 possibly.
You're right. That is something that we can do. We have the possibility. I think it's possible to get to a map 5, but it's like the slimmest of slim margins because you have to somehow draw on an escort map, which is possible. It's very improbable, but it's possible. So It's a pretty nuts thing if it does happen. But we're going to take a timeout, and when we come back, we will have that potentially final map for you. So don't go anywhere. We welcome you back here to Monkey Bubble. It is Contenders Trials. It's Labasco alongside me, Kenobi. Map is Temple of Anubis, Young and Beautiful versus Vox Nihili. Tied up 1-1. We've got one more map to potentially find ourselves a winner here, Kenobi. Maybe one more. You know, you never know. Something can draw.
That is, I mean, and it's Anubis. Anubis is also very drawn, as we know. Labasco in the annals of history in Overwatch. I actually would wonder, what is the map where the most draws happen? It's obviously got to be like a 2CP map or a assault map. It has to be. And then out of those, I think Anubis has a pretty good shot at
you know what's funny is thinking of history on this map, I was thinking of, both you and I are Contenders China casters. I was thinking about a specific Contenders China game in which this was a major map in determining who would end up going onto the finals back in 2018. This is the map where Lucky Future Zenith was able to make this go to a game 7 versus T1W back in the day.
Yeah, I remember that map very vividly. Actually, that was actually pretty. Man, I miss Lucky Future Zenith, but we're here. We're in the now.
Yes,
we're talking about both of these teams. I mean, they're running. We're
in EMEA too. EU.
What did you expect? They're running Genji Pose. Did you expect anything else? Maybe that there was going to be something like a dive, but actually
we got a May.
They do have the May, which also on Anubis makes a lot of sense, Labasco, because of the ability to wall off these chokeholds. You can get so much value out of walls, especially on this defense, and a huge aggressive push already from Yab.
Lots of damage coming through from Pingu, but it doesn't matter because they just get obliterated for Vox Nihili. Young and Beautiful, well in control. They came through that small choke, didn't care about getting halted up. They knew that they were going to win the fight.
I love the aggression from Yab there at Labasco. So cool to see a team just put the foot on the gas and just say, we're not going to let you set up here at all. We're going to rush onto you, use our May walls to our advantage, and they do a great job winning that fight very early, Labasco. As you can see Jonah waiting on the flank again. He likes to play this flanking route.
Gotten a lot of value out of it so far, too. Not too bad of one. Has the coach gun for the escape. Can just walk right back too if the fight doesn't really go in a way that Jonah thinks it will. So Pingu on a flank himself, having a little bit of trouble crawling on the wall there, but that's okay. Gets stunned up. Booped away really far. Good use, though, of the deflect to make sure he doesn't take too much damage, doesn't get stunned. But in the meantime, Young and Beautiful, with the amplification matrix, have been able to take advantage and win the fight.
And in the fact that they've won these fights, Labasco, in the time that Vox Nihili has not been able to really get a foothold in this game at all, they've gotten Blizzards for Yikids. And Blizzard is a really good counter towards Genji Blade, because once the Genji Blades, you throw the Blizzard down onto the floor, all cuddle up in that Blizzard, and the Genji can't do anything.
Amplification Matrix going to be used by Vox Nihili, and you can easily hide if you're Young and Beautiful around the corner. So not much value, and now they're running right into the Blizzard is the only problem. Maywall will make sure that they can't escape. Use of the Gravitic Flux happens for Young and Beautiful on a fight that they won, so maybe overcommitting ultimates a little bit, but they are still in control, so they're still in a good spot with the amount of time they've taken off.
I think a definite overcommitment there from Brucein. Didn't really need to use the Gravitic Flux. I think got a little bit worried that there was the Genji blading, but they were in Blizzard, so the Genji blade, like you mentioned, like I saw, got really no value whatsoever. And actually, Pingu gonna be on the Mei themselves, so going wall for wall here. Mirror compositions now fully for both of these sides. Supercharger to start this off. We'll see what happens.
Players getting caught, frozen up a little bit. Immortality Field already down, and they are surrounded on either side with the help of the Supercharger. Young and Beautiful looking so good on Temple of Anubis.
So coordinated, so aggressive, putting the pressure onto Vox Nihili. They're being so proactive instead of Vox Nihili, who this entire 3 minutes so far has had to play reactive more so than anything. So for Yab, this is extremely well played from them. 1 minute left for Vox Nihili to make something happen on this offense. They have the Gravitic Flux and the Supercharger.
Gravitic Flux is out. Immortality Field, make sure that nobody falls and they're able to heal up. So cooldown out that you want to ultimate up, though, to try and take advantage of it. Not quite for the side of Vox Nihili. They have the rally, though, so they have an advantage as far as the health, but they need to be able to push on. The only problem is there's a dynamite from Jonah and now a bomb. They can't even get towards this team. Amplification Matrix helped to make sure that they stayed in front too for Young and Beautiful.
This is a disaster, Labasco, from Vox Nihili. A complete disaster. Supercharger committed here. They only have 10 seconds left. This is all they have. Yikids has Blizzard, though. It's going to be very difficult for Vox Nihili to get onto this point.
Wall comes up by Pingu, goes onto the point using the ice block, but has no ability to stay alive anymore. Gravitic Flux out. And already Jaru is down. Pingu stalling for as long as possible. Ultimate's not getting a whole lot of value for Vox Nihili. NKZ just desperately trying to stay on this point and turn it around. But eventually the damage from Young and Beautiful ends up being too much. Ido can't do anything from the high ground but watch as everyone falls in front. And Young and Beautiful have full held Vox Nihili and need 33% to take the first spot in this Contenders Trials.
I mean, Labasco, a completely fabulous defense there from Yap, all things considered. I just love the way that they were playing so proactively, right? Where even from the get-go, when you saw them go in with that Mei at that very first point, they pushed all the way to Dark. And they said, okay, we're not going to let you stand on ceremony, Vox Nihili, and just get and set up and get your executes. No, we're going to take the fight to you, which is realistically what the reverse should be happening. But the defense from Yab was just so good, so well coordinated. Again, still drawable. So we could go to another map.
Yeah, true.
Yab, based on how they looked on that defense, I would definitely put my money on them if I was gambling there.
Yeah. It's legal in a lot of states now too, Kenobi. So, you know, if you really want to bet on things, you can. You know, it's one of those things. It's just a truth now here in the U.S. So, you know, U.S. You know, we're not like some places like in Europe where you know, you've been able to do that for forever. But looking at the composition, I don't think it's a surprise that it's the Ashe and the Mei for Vox Nihili.
Right, again, because on defense you have the ability to use those walls to great effect in holding off those chokeholds, because there's really only 2 options to get into the basically point of Anubis, and walls cover all of that. So look out for those walls from Pingu. I wonder if Vox Nihili's going to play as aggressive as Yab did. Doesn't look so. They're just going to hold that high ground.
Well, not even having a chance to get forward is Young and Beautiful. They have some players that were able to get into that dark room, but now you kind of have to wait for some of your cooldowns to come back. Some players did get low. They're not going to try and go to the high ground. They're actually going on the low ground around under the bridge. Players getting halted off. You kids right-clicking in, nobody falling yet, but players getting low for Vox and Nihili. Have to be careful here. The Brigitte halted back in, and Froki could be the first domino that has Vox Nihili losing to Young and Beautiful. Amplification Matrix out too for that extra damage. Somebody has to get on the point, not even a chance. And Young and Beautiful take a quick win here on Temple of Anubis and win 2-1 over Vox and Nihili.
Very, very quick. You saw them, they played that so patiently as well. Once the wall comes out, they just pull it backwards. They're like, okay, the wall is out. We need to reset, get our health bars all the way up. And then they do something that's really cool is they fake that they're going through dark on the left side, but then they actually rotate through the mid, get a very nice halt off the side, and take everyone to the low ground. And once it's a brawl like that, it's a Genji's dream in that scenario. So for Yab, from losing that first control to coming back and winning these last 2 maps, phenomenally played from them.
They look, I think you can say there's a difference that we saw now after 2 maps of who has a very good grasp of the composition that is dominating everything with the Genji and the Orisa and the Sigma and the Ashe. Like you saw some really cool things come out from Young and Beautiful on that map, and just how they played it too when they put in the May as well. They looked really good.
Yeah, I think they looked, and it was interesting to see just the difference between them on Control and them on the other 2 maps, where you had like full holds on both of them. Like, full holds on both is pretty nuts.
Yeah,
like, full holding both of those teams is actually pretty insane. For Vox Nihili, played really well on Control, and didn't even on Route 66. Vox Nihili didn't play that bad either. So I think for both of these teams, I am very impressed with how they played, except for Yab. When they played that May comp on defense, whew, that was some very good stuff.
It was really, really cool to see. So we're actually going to have an interview with Dala here in a second, I believe, Kenobi. So
yes, we are.
So
I want to ask you about the defense.
Yeah,
that was
definitely. It was. So I think we're going to actually bring Dala in here in just a second. So now we will have Dala joining us. So Dala, first off, congrats. A very good win for you guys on those last 2 maps.
Thank you very much.
So the first thing I just want to ask you is, as far as the Control map is concerned, it seemed like, when there was a lot of variance, you guys still played pretty well, but that main composition with the Genji and the Ashe seemed to be where you guys really started to shine. And why is that? What about that composition do you guys really enjoy?
Well, I mean, I think it's about like us not being like we have been a team for like only a week or so we haven't been able to scream much, and every time, like all the time we have screamed at meta comp. So obviously when we play something like Rush or Dive, like it's not gonna be as much as good as our meta because we haven't practiced it enough. And we also kinda started changing comps last minute on the COD, so or King of the Hill, and that's why it's one of the reasons we lost one of the maps, but they played really good as well, so that caught us off guard.
Yeah, can you also, one of the things I'm interested in, can you walk me through a little bit that defense that you guys had on Anubis, where I thought you guys played incredibly aggressively and just basically took it to Vox and Nihili? Was that the game plan going in, where you just like, okay, we're gonna basically put the pressure on them and not let them set up or be comfortable in any way?
Yeah, I mean, the May pick is like meant to be like really aggressive, like you can wall them inside, you can caught them surprising, like they cannot react to it quickly enough, and usually team just plays low with Genji Ashe and just trying to poke each other out and find the picks, but I think we think it's really strong to be able to play aggressive with the Mei and take the advantage of it. Also, Mei ult is really good against that. So
No,
Yeah,
you guys, go ahead.
Here's the other thing about Mayalt was just like, were you thinking when you were playing that, were you just like, okay, whenever the Genji plays, we're just gonna use the Mayalt to just basically stop it from doing anything?
I think we more use like our like normal cooldowns to counter the blade, like bash, my whip. Even sometimes if we have flux, like flux the Genji blade. But especially when they don't have Ana and Nano, we don't think blade is such a huge threat to us because the Genji is really vulnerable without Nano.
Gotcha.
Yeah, especially now with the changes to Brigitte, even more so, don't have the same value that you just had just the other week. So yeah, definitely some differences there. You guys also had an awesome defensive hold on Route 66. What was so integral in you guys being able to hold that map too? Because like one full hold is awesome, but being able to do it twice, that's nuts.
Yeah, the first attack, like our attack, we didn't like we wanted to finish the map, of course, but we were a little bit lacking. Like we weren't talking about enemy ults, how to set up against them, and things like that. I feel like we were a little bit, not hyped enough. Then in the defense, our cheerleader dance got us all hyped up, and then we were able to talk about the rules and play our own game.
Can you tell me what was going through comms when Jonah was making that flank, when he's just basically behind enemy lines and then bobs?
He said that he's gonna bob them when they come, but then it was just yelling when they're coming and didn't do what we thought about. So, I mean, it still worked, but
Yeah, it works
a
pretty
little
good.
bit hectic. Yeah.
Can't be bad of him if it works, right?
Yeah.
Well, Dala, thanks for coming in and talking about it. Congrats on the big win to keep you guys at the top here and hopefully winning yourselves a contender spot.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks also you guys for casting these games. It's really enjoyable to watch them back and just enjoy them.
Well, we hope you enjoy this
Appreciate
one
it.
too, and we definitely really appreciate it for sure. So thanks for stopping by.
Yep, thanks you guys.
So that was Dala on the victorious Young and Beautiful in control of the first place spot. I think that might officially give them I
Not
don't know if
officially.
not officially yet because they have to depends on a couple of things, but
I think
still
if
a
they win
3-0.
one, if they win their next map, I think they are pretty much basically guaranteed because then they'll be 4-0, and at that point it's very difficult for someone to catch you. Even if someone does catch them, they're still probably guaranteed that second spot anyway. So
Yeah, 3 and
they
0
basically put some distance between them and the rest of the pack.
exactly. Major distance too because Dreadlords and HSL like one of those teams is going to have 2 losses. So like you are in such a good place, but you're right. It's not quite there, but we're pretty close. They control their own destiny is the important part. But we're not done figuring out the destiny of some other teams if they're going to have a good shot of making it. We actually have to jump into Group B next. Our next game is going to be Avoided versus the Sheer Cold. So that is our next game that we have. We're going to take a timeout and we'll have that game here in just a little bit. So don't go anywhere. We welcome you back here for more EU Contenders Trials. Labasco alongside Kenobi, getting ready for our final game of the day. It's Avoided versus Sheer Cold. Again, Kenobi, we get two teams at the top of their group that we get to watch play.
And again, this is one of those matchups where it's going to be very important going forward. It's a tone setter for the rest of the group. One of these teams gets to have that unblemished record of a 3-0, and the other team goes to 2-1. And I believe actually in Group B, it's a little bit closer in terms of the teams that are fighting for that one spot. Obviously, there's 6 teams in this group, there's 5 teams in the other. But for Group B, if you can get that 3-0 record, that's a pretty good get for you. And if you're going down to that 2-1, there's a possibility that you are getting knocked out of the top 2 spots right now in the group stage. So for both of these teams, very important game going in.
Winning maps is important too when you talk about that, especially because you have it being so close at the top of the group. So even if you lose, like if you're able to at least take a map, like the having that differential be that just extra one can make all the difference as well. So important for both of these teams. And when you look at the players starting with Avoided, there's one name in particular that just comes to mind and brings some great memories, and that's Mini-Me.
Yeah, Mini-Me. You all know Clockwork Vendetta. You know the legend of Clockwork Vendetta from EU last year. A team that was, I'd say, one of the cooler teams in all of Contenders, where they just had this composition that they wanted to play continuously, and it ended up working out pretty well for them. And on the other side for Avoided, you have some other names. I mean, a name that stands out to me on Avoided is Totti, because I am a big soccer fan, and I assume that's where that name comes from. I would hope so. If not, then that's cool. I'm just gonna pretend that it's that way, anyways.
You take it, right? But it's a from the Clockwork Vendetta days of Mini-Me, this is obviously a much different looking team that he's on compared to then. That we get to see him play on. And then for Sheer Cold, of course, you have some names that people might know as well.
Lot of names. And actually, this has been a team that's kind of, the most of it has stayed together, actually, or intact, because I remember we were casting Sheer Cold like a while ago.
Long time ago.
Like, this has been a team, or at least the bulk of the team, people like Backbone, Shade, Alex, for instance, one of my favorite, at least, Sigmas in all of EU. And with Sigma being very prevalent in the meta, I can't wait to see what Sheer Cold is going to be doing specifically in this next matchup.
Yeah, so I think that's the important thing too to mention, is like this team definitely has been around for a little bit, and under some of the players were on different teams as well. So this team in particular together like this has been for a little bit, but people might know them from some of the other teams they may have played on. But just looking at this matchup and how things have gone for both of these teams so far, like we said, they sit both at the top. They both have a +3 record, Kenobi, so they both have a loss in some of their games. And for both of them, it was Control, which is the first map that we're going to go to here, and Oasis is going to be our first map again.
So one of them is going to break their Control curse, and they're going to get that nice little W under their belt. I think this definitely could be one Labasco that we see go the distance, go to all 3 maps. It's definitely a possibility. Could possibly see a 4-mapper as well. It is a possibility, as people who may not be here or beforehand, this is a best of 3, so it's a first to 2.
Right.
A little bit of a different type of setup than we're normally used to with the best of 5, first to 3 type situation, but still offers a lot of good series that we've seen. I mean, the last one that we saw between Yab and I believe Vox Nihili was really good as well. So for this matchup, again, very important in terms of the group stages. I wonder what we're going to see from both these teams in terms of compositions. We saw some variation on Oasis with the other matchup that we saw. We saw some dive, we saw some rush compositions. Definitely could see that being played out here, but I think if I had to guess, the standard composition that we'll probably see throughout most of this is going to be that Genji poke composition that basically has taken over the entirety of Overwatch in the current meta.
If there's any indication of how things are going to go, Oasis is probably going to be the outlier where you see a lot of different compositions. You might see the Genji poke comp, but it seems like that's where you're going to get your variety. And then once we get into the other map types, that's when we're going to kind of set into what's the standard composition. I think even when you talk it to, we talked to Dala after our last game, and he kind of pointed out how like the focus for them, especially because they're pretty new for some of the players on Young and Beautiful, was practicing the comp that they know is meta, that is the best comp that's going to be played on most maps, and that those other things were things that they were working on later. So
Yeah. I mean, it gives you the best chance to win, right? That's the meta comp gives you the best chance to win a lot of these matchups, even if you are a new team, right? Where practicing something like Rush in positions where it's going to be very micro intensive in terms of where you're going to be playing it. Like, you're only going to be playing Rush for maybe 1 or 2 maps. Usually it's going to be on control specifically, but I think practicing the meta composition is probably the best bet. And for both of these teams, as we go into this first map, there is again a possibility that there could be some things like dive, especially in this first map that we're going into, but I would expect mostly it stays towards the GT, or not the GT, the Genji poke, not Genji Tracer poke, because that's not a thing.
Right, we might see, like you said, some Rush, some other things. One thing I know that we will see is people supporting Tier 2, and you can do so and maybe win some stuff because Monkey Bubble has partnered with the LA Gladiators for Glad for Tier 2. So, and it is a really good thing. So, but
Support
looking
Tier 2, I mean,
here,
obviously,
support Tier 2.
obviously, we just support Tier 2 everywhere. And as we see these compositions at the start, I'm not going to say anything because obviously could just change on me. But as we go into this first matchup, very important matchup, Labasco, for both of these teams. Like I mentioned in the pre-show, we're seeing here Backbone switches off to the Echo. So that's very interesting to me, is that Echo is going to be played here, as well as Farah. So these are 2 characters that have not had a lot of prevalence recently, but we're seeing them here on our first map of the list.
Yep, City Center 2, the first map that we get to see. Nice halt into the sticky bombs. A nice good combo there. Gets Backbone some pretty early percentage. Not really landing a whole lot with it just yet, but at least for the moment, it's just a poke, and who's going to be able to find that initial pick? And it's going to be our team in green, as they now will have things in control, at least for the moment. So Sheer Cold looking pretty good here at the start.
The comp for Avoided is just, it seems like a little bit of a mishmash of different compositions, Labasco. Nothing really synergizes that greatly together with all of these heroes that they have picked. As we can see, the Farah is going to go down, gets rest back up, so going to be here for this next fight.
And we know Mini-Me, of course, so good on the Orisa too, so you at least have that. But they are struggling, at least at the beginning. Sheer Cold well in control, and Avoided, well, they're going to have to figure out what they want to do. They are really in a pretty bad spot, at least early on. The only thing close to an ultimate right now is Toddy, and you might be getting your mine soon too.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult here for Yezin to play in the air. He's going up against an Echo that can deal with him and a McCree, so it's almost a 2v2 the entirety of the time. His Backbone going to be dueling with that Hammond, gets the kill as well.
Wow.
Avoided, going to be using that Molten Core on the point, see what it can do.
Try to get those players who were trying to escape, but not going to last very long is the only problem. Backbone uses the duplicate onto the Farah and spamming out onto players, not really finding a whole lot just yet, but doesn't need to because they're in control for Sheer Cold, that they don't even have to worry about this. They're chasing down these last few players trying to run away.
Nice halt flashbang combo there from Grafin and his team, and this just looks like a complete wipe. Labasco Avoided doesn't even look like they've been in this match so far. As you can see, 85% to 0%. They're coming up on, they still have some of their key ultimates. Like you mentioned, there's a Nano, there's a Barrage in the mines as well. It's do or die right now for Avoided here, last fight.
So you have the mines that you still are waiting to see get used. The Barrage coming out in the sky will manage to get Grayson, but was able to trade out the kill. So it ends up being a 5v5 onto the point. 99% Mini-Me pushing forward, halting players in. Gets the supercharger, probably gonna have to use it here in a second. Throws it down, trying to spam in, blocks off that Supercharger too to try and keep it up in the fight. Tractor Kid will throw down the mines and find one, but this is still a good spot for Sheer Cold. They're still in control. Farah gets just blanked out of the sky, and the beam follows up onto another for Backbone. So this air superiority for the Echo, just too much to handle for Avoided, and the stall will not last long, and Sheer Cold will take a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, Labosco, I'm just going to put that one down to just a complete compositional mismatch right there, where Avoided's composition really just played into the hands of exactly what Sheer Cold wanted to do. You have an Echo that can duel with Farah. You have a McCree also good at dueling with the Farah. And then the Junkrat is in there offering a little bit more shield break, but not really offering anything because the map is so open. It's not something like a university where it's very enclosed areas where Junkrat can get a lot of value. So sticking with it again is Avoided on this first map, and I don't know about this composition, Labosco. I just think what Sheer Cold is running, it just beats it outright.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way, right? Like they're able to just kind of maintain everything. Like you said, feels like a mismatch of things together.
Yeah, there's not really any synergies here besides the fact that there's like, you know, you can maybe halt Junkrat mine. Maybe you can halt Farah barrage or something like that. But besides that, there's not much in terms of combinations that I like on their composition.
Especially because the Echo can so easily deal with your Farah in the sky. Backbone just owning right now on this Echo.
See the point gonna be flipped here very soon from Sheer Cold. Someone on Avoided has to get to the point.
And when they go, all they're going to do is die. Nothing they can do, and Graythan is able to take control of the high ground on the McCree, so his composition not having much success for Avoided early on.
Like Labosco, no one here can deal with Backbone. Like there's no one on Avoided who is able to deal, unless Yezin is hitting direct rocket after direct rocket on Backbone. That's really the only counter that they have. Besides that, not really much else can deal with Backbone on this Echo, and he's just free reigning right now, free farming the entirety of Avoided.
And Yezin has just had trouble just staying alive because there's been so much pressure from Backbone. A lot of sticky bombs coming in, trying to deal with this wrecking ball, getting extremely low, and will be taken down eventually by Alex. So there's nothing right now that Avoided can do except try and avoid players and try and regroup because they are down again.
And they're winning these fights with no ultimates used either, Labosco, right? Where they're going to have a treasure trove of ultimates for this next fight. And Avoided, they've had a very rough time farming up their ultimates as Totti's going to get found out here. He's most likely going to go down. Yep, that's another fight that's just going to be pretty disastrous for Avoided.
So Alex again, already finding one. And Sheer Cold really just taking control, not having to worry about too much yet. They've got plenty of ultimates in the bank that they can use whenever they want, up to 67%. And now the Nano Boost coming out, Duplicate used in response, loses out on that right away, but that's okay for Backbone because the Echo has been working so well. Tractor Kid, though, in the meantime, and Toddy, too much to handle, and Avoided look like they're going to be able to get the flip finally here. Going in, trying to use the kinetic grasp was Alex, but just stalling for as long as possible. And it's a very long stall, too, for Sheer Cold.
And now the stragglers are going to go down here, but 88% for Sheer Cold. That means that's last fight territory for them. A lot of ultimates available for both of these sides. Labosco and Avoided won that last fight off of the back of a nanoed Farah. Farah's able to get that barrage. Totti is able to have this Junkrat Riptire, which means that Totti can end this fight before it even starts here, Labosco. Well,
I haven't seen the... Well, I mean, taking Backbone out of the sky as a wrecking ball, I guess, is a way to do it, too.
Yeah, if Backbone's not there, they can't push on. You see Tractor Kid on the flank, but he's gonna... Ooh, that was actually very close. If he went down there, that would have been disastrous for them, but... It's going to be difficult a little bit now for Sheer Cold to recontest against the Junkrat through a lot of these chokes, and there's the Supercharger as well.
So the Supercharger already out and quickly dealt with by Backbone. So Sheer Cold at least trying to work through some of those ultimates, able to take out the Supercharger that was there, and the ult coming through Doesn't get anything for Tati, so the Riptire not going to lead to much. High Noon coming out from Graythan will be able to get T-Sorcerer over the top, though. Yesen is able to get 3 with the Nano Boost. The Barrage, too much to handle, and now avoided. They are in a very good spot.
That was such a clutch nano from Hampy there. If that nano does not get committed there, that Pharah dies, the Barrage isn't able to get as many kills, and the Avoided probably loses this round, but they are able to sustain 80% for Avoided. This is last fight, Labasco. Alex has that Gravitic Flux. It's the biggest ultimate on the field right now. What can he do with it?
Alex spamming through that amplification matrix, gets booped away by the Wrecking Ball, now going to use the Gravitic Flux, pulls Mini-Me into the sky, but Mini-Me able to be held up no problem. Even fight for the moment between both of these teams. Nothing yet coming through to give either side an advantage. Yesen with another barrage is able to get Graythan, so now the Pharah doesn't have to worry about that hit scan damage. Alex trying to deal with Yesen, and Yesen is just too much for Sheer Cold to handle.
It looks like she avoided coming back from where it looked like they didn't have a snowball's chance in hell to winning this map. And then once they got control of the point, it was very difficult for Sheer Cold to get back onto it again, because they're going into things like Junkrat, like Pharah, where spam has a lot of value going into those enclosed areas and holding a point with those chokeholds. And now we go to University, where this composition works a lot better for Avoided. Junkrat has always been a hero that we've seen on this map, specifically because of the way that the mines and the grenades work in these enclosed areas. Pharah also has some pretty nice skyboxes to work with as well. This could actually be Avoided winning this map here, when it didn't look like that in the first two.
For a map that's so enclosed, it's not as enclosed as you think. That's sort of the thing with it. You're seeing too that there's really not a change coming out from Sheer Cold. They're going to stay with the same composition. This is what they believe can beat what Avoided is doing. And they're rotating around pretty far, Kenobi, so they've gone to the spawn side of Avoided, and it's worked out because they found themselves an Ana all by herself.
A really good rotation, knowing the Ana's going to be playing back. They get on, they aggress, and then they take down Mini-Me, Labasco. Sheer Cold wins this fight off of the back of just one really nice rotation. Actually, there are some kills coming back and forth, but I don't think it matters too much.
Yeah, you have the Wrecking Ball that's going to be able to stall at least for the moment, but that's all it is a stall. And now they go, oh no, there's nowhere to go, Toddy. You're just going to die. And now you have the stagger come out onto the Junkrat.
Still a really nice rotation from Sheer Cold to start all of that off, and not a lot of ultimates to talk about just yet. Labasco lose her close towards that amplification matrix. That Pharah got very low. Ends up being saved by the Ana and the Mercy.
Yeah, T-Sorcerer was really close to falling though too. Surprised Backbone didn't switch over to the beam over there, but instead gets shot out of the sky, sniped by the Ana. So now you have advantage over to Avoided, but Amplification Matrix evening things back up by taking out Tractor Kid, and Mini-Me goes down too, so no more tanks alive to try and keep themselves in this for Avoided, and they're just going to have to back away.
Totti gonna be able to live here, so that's good. They are able to get some people out. Actually goes down. I don't know what he was thinking, really, going over there when Alex is sitting there with his primary fire. But he goes down. Nice anti, though, coming out from
Hampy, yeah. Hampy has been pretty good on the Ana, that's for sure. Has also got caught out, but, you know, that's just a good rotation from Sheer Cold. Riptire going to be coming from underneath. Nobody spots it out, and it gets both tanks. And Avoided is back in business and has a chance to take this point back.
That's a nice little tire there coming out from Totti, and this is a little bit second verse same as the first Labasco, where Avoided lose pretty hard in the first couple of fights and Sheer Cold gets 80%, but now Avoided has control of this point. They can use their spam damage much more effectively here. Unfortunately for them, Sheer Cold have a lot of ultimates to work with, and really what you're looking out for Avoided for them to win this is a huge barrage again from Yesen, but he does not have a nano to pocket him and keep him alive.
We'll be curious to see who Backbone decides to duplicate. Has been going with this Pharah every time, but has been getting extremely low. Does stay up this time, though, does Backbone. Maybe we'll get a chance to get one of those ultimates off, but still hasn't been able to get the value out of that ult in on the point, though. You have Sheer Cold being able to create an advantage for themselves. Tractor Kid going down, and they almost have the flip already. Players starting to try and get back together for Avoided, but they have to give up the point. It's already up to 83% for Sheer Cold. Gravitic Flux, too, from Alex. They're staggering out so hard for Avoided.
And I think this is going to be it for Sheer Cold. They're going to take this map here. It's just Pharah with that barrage, and this barrage might not even be used to any effect whatsoever, as Alex is just playing point guard right now.
Oh no, didn't even get there to give them a chance. Sheer Cold win off of the back of a strong push at the end to stagger out Avoided, and they take a 1-0 lead.
And I think it was live by the composition Avoided was having and die by the composition that Avoided had there.
Yeah.
It worked when they had control of the point a lot of the time. And actually, one of the things that I really liked was you were talking about the Backbone switching over to things like the Pharah instead. I actually really like that because the Pharah switch means that you are basically taking away the attention of two people on Avoided side, because the Pharah, the Mercy has to continue to pocket the Pharah. So the Pharah is taking, the Backbone duplicate is taking all of this attention away from the fight on the point, and on the fight on the point, it's a 5v4, and you don't have a Mercy keeping your team alive. So I actually think that duplicate from Backbone really, really cool.
Yeah, it definitely is a very cool thing to see come out. Once it makes sense, right? Like that's a really cool thing to think about it when you put it in that sort of perspective. Sheer Cold, though, with that 1-0 lead. Route 66 we know is our next map, and I mean, is this a comp that Avoided is going to continue using, though, is the thing. Like, we're moving on to a map type where I don't know if it necessarily has as much potential to really work.
I don't think so. And the interesting thing, Labasco, is we didn't talk about this at all. No Genji. Not a single lick of Genji in that first round on Oasis, which was interesting because it's usually always like at least one of the teams is playing Genji, right? But none of these teams opted for it whatsoever. Maybe Sheer Cold had a read on what Avoided was going to play or something like that.
Seems
but
like
the fact that there was no Genji at all is pretty shocking to me. And when we go into this next map in Route 66, I would expect that there would be some specifically here. But based on what Avoided played in that last map, we could get anything. I mean, the sky is the limit right now for what Avoided can bring to the table.
Well, I think Mini-Me is happy with the fact that Orisa is still extremely strong and in the meta, because regardless of whatever you play for Avoided, like, it's probably going to be based around an Orisa.
Right, and main Orisa is just one of the strongest main tanks. It's not the strongest main tank currently in the meta. Has Halt, which is basically a free grab every 4 seconds. Not too shabby. So for Mini-Me, it wasn't necessary. The fact that they were playing Orisa was good. It's weird that they were comboing it with something like a Hammond, which we have seen sometimes, but again, there just seemed like a lack of synergy overall in the hero selection from Avoided.
And it's the composition was reminiscent of Clockwork Vendetta, where it just feels unconventional, but there's actually some things that make sense when you think about how they can work together. But yes, it is something that we probably won't see here. We start to load into Route 66 Kenobi, and we'll have our answer here shortly for us. So that's the nice part about getting to go into these games quickly. Avoided, though, here on Route 66, I mean, you definitely need some sort of hit scan, something to take care of these long sight lines.
Yeah, especially if you're going... I mean, the thing is if you play Pharah in this map, it's very difficult because there's a lot of long sight lines that you can get with things like a McCree, with an Ashe, and a Widowmaker, so I would advise against the Pharah specifically on this map. Doesn't look like they're going to listen to me, so it is like the same position that they had previously. I wonder what Totti is going to switch to here, if he's going to... He's not going to stay on Symmetric. No, he's not. There's no way.
I don't know.
Okay, so everything
walking forward.
Everything is just blown out of the water right now for me, Labasco. I don't know what to think. This composition, I mean, if you're Avoided here, if you're Sheer Cold here, you can basically just switch to any type of hit scan, or you can basically say, we're going to duel you with the Pharah 1v1, and then we're going to have Backbone as well playing the Echo, a very capable Echo in their own right, and then it's like it's basically a 3v2 in the air for the side of Sheer Cold.
Well, they're going to go. They're basically playing, at least for the most part, what we've seen as standard as far as the tanks and the supports are concerned. Graythan has decided to play the McCree here, and Backbone is on the Echo. So the DPS is a little different, but the style of composition is the same. But Tati at the beginning gets Backbone.
Nice halt combination with that right click from the Symmetra. Does a pretty good amount of damage. Lobosco and Backbone gets obliterated. As we see, Graffin is on the McCree, so gonna basically just try and make the Pharah's life a living hell currently, as the fight's gonna go down on the cart here.
Alex just trying to keep that cart moving. Now knows that there are those turrets somewhere to his right. Still doesn't know where they are, though, is the funny thing. It's very well hidden. Backbone's going to be the one to find them out, though. Throws the sticky bombs in. Ensure that they're going to go away. And now just trying to nuke down all of those shields out in front. Have to be careful, though, because there's also that beam being charged up by Tati, who gets pulled in and taken down. Amplification Matrix used, Immortality Field 2, and Sheer Cold is starting to make some headway.
And even though Avoid had a nice play at the start of this map, it's really just Sheer Cold asserting their dominance with that Amplification Matrix from Looser. Basically annihilates Mini-Me off the map before he can even blink. And now it's going to be avoided. They can get a defense here because they do have Hammond, which can just get onto the cart very quickly. But Sheer Cold, Flux is available for Alex already. That's pretty fast.
Extremely quick one, and it's going to be popped immediately, too, along with the Deadeye Graythan with the nice tracking to pull himself to the left as that Pharaoh is trying to fly away. And they will cruise here to this first point, and ooh, nice shot at the end, too.
Cruise is definitely the word that I would use for it, Lebosco. This seems pretty... I mean, once that Deadeye comes out and kills the Pharaoh Mercy, that's basically the fight's over. There's no way of coming back from that whatsoever. Luckily enough for Avoided, they were able to keep their Nano and their Barrage, so they can stem the bleeding a little bit and stop the snowball from Sheer Cold whenever it comes through. But it's still, like, very difficult for me to see, besides that combination, any win conditions here for Avoided.
It's definitely difficult and very limited, that's for sure. For the side of Sheer Cold, though, there's so many things in their repertoire that they can use to try and win this, but here comes that barrage, and it does manage to at least get one, but Graythan is too strong on the other end and keeps Sheer Cold in front. Tati on the flank, trying to get value out of this Symmetra, but value is not coming. The value is from Backbone and from Sheer Cold.
And they aren't even to use their the one win condition that they had, which was the Nano Barrage. Gets one kill, but an insanely well-placed Immortality Field from Looser keeps Graffin alive. Graffin is able to take the Pharah out of the sky, and the one win condition for Avoided completely evaporates. They're coming back in. They won't even probably get a touch here. Lebosco, this is just complete and utter domination from Sheer Cold at every aspect. Now, luckily here, we are in this third point, and spam works a little bit better in these enclosed areas, so Tati switch over to the Junkrat. This can work a little bit better than it has in the previous 2 points.
It does make it a little bit easier, though, for the McCree to hit his shots because there's less sky for you to try and avoid him. A lot more areas to go around, though, but Mini-Me still falls victim to the Deadeye. Sheer Cold still in front, can't even get the res off. There's a giant rock met with your head to make sure that can't happen.
And Sheer Cold will just walk this through towards the end of the payload. You see the Junkrat just hiding in the corner. Oh, he got him. You know, it was a very good attempt there, Lebosco, but it's not going to matter. Sheer Cold should very easily have this next fight win. They are going to have duplicating Orissas, so actually I like that Backbone is just playing Aggregator here.
Just making sure that they have a lot that you have to do with it, keeping players from getting out of that door too. And now Gravitic Flux is up for Alex to use as soon as players get pulled together. Finds the Mercy, not allowing her to res, slams down on the Wrecking Ball, and now you have the Riptire get used by Avoided, but is it too little too late is the only problem. Too many players on the cart for Sheer Cold, but there's some nice mines. Some pipe bombs coming out from Tati to try and swing this back in. The spam damage turning out to be too much.
Yeah,
Sheer
respawns
cold have to go away.
Respawn's a little bit too important for Avoided there, and Sheer Cold weren't able to get the kills that they need in the target selection. Just when also, to be fair for Tulti, really nice Riptire there going after Backbone, one of the main DPS dealers, and then goes and kills Lucer as well. Tulti gets very over aggressive there, but so does Backbone in his return to kill.
Players getting halted in, not going to be able to hit though with those rockets was the Pharah and Yezin. Yezin kind of just waiting now. Same thing with Tractor Kid, looking for that opportunity to come in. Got spotted out though. Now will drop on to the Sigma on the flank, so they know at least where most of the players are. A little bit of a stall out coming here.
Backbone is going to go down, so that's a little bit more time that Sheer Cold is wasting here. Don't think they're going to aggress whatsoever in this composition that I've been a little bit critical of through the past couple of phases. Here on this defense in this enclosed area, it's working out a lot better.
Ooh, nice accretion rack though on Yezin. Over 4 minutes on the clock, almost 5 minutes Sheer Cold had when they got to this final part of the map. They're down to under 2. That's how good this comp has been for Avoided here on this final part of the map. But Graythan doesn't care how the fights went prior to this. Same thing with Backbone with the sticky bones. That's Toddy dead and just has to try and get value out of this tire and can't get anything. It's only players falling for Avoided. And the only thing they're avoiding now is just trying to lose. Yes, Yezin comes back in with that barrage, but it's not enough. Sheer Cold should be able to finish this map after they clear this point off.
I mean, hopefully, but there is the Valkyrie. That's a lot of sustain available on this cart. The Junkrat's in here spamming down damage. This should not be enough for Avoided, but Sheer Cold might do it.
They throw down the supercharger, quickly dealt with by Toddy and by Tractor Kid, as they still are keeping this stalled out at the very least. It's a winning fight at the very least for Sheer Cold. They're losing some players, but they still have the advantage. Just one more that they have to try and deal with, and they finally get the point completed.
That was certainly a fight of Overwatch we just saw with Bosco.
It was. Players were on the point.
There were kills, there were ults. Like, that was just a fight of Overwatch. Don't know really what exactly happened, but it was a fight of Overwatch. And this composition from Avoided isn't able to get up the full defense. It stalled for a significantly long amount of time, because it was like 4.5 minutes when Sheer Cold was walking into this third point to get it down all the way to 54 seconds. Not too shabby from that defense of Avoided with that composition that they have.
It feels like a composition where on that third point you feel pretty confident in it because of spam and everything else and how the third point works. The only thing is, Kenobi, on their offense, they have to get to that third point.
Right, and that's a little bit where I'm worried, where the offensive, at least the first 2 points of this map or the first 2 phases, I should say, Junkrat not really the greatest value on these first 2 points. And especially going up against something like Backbone and something like Grassroots on the McCree and the Echo, it's going to be even more difficult for it to get value. So the biggest value that you get out of this composition from Avoided is the shield break, because shields are basically going to blow up with Pharah, with Junkrat, with Orisa shooting it, with Baptiste shooting it. It's not going to live for very long. So that's how Sheer Cold plays around this. The way that they win is they win by playing around the geometry of the map and not letting their shields get blown up immediately.
And you have some harass that comes through from the Wrecking Ball, too, of Tractor Kid. And we can already see Tractor Kid going in behind while Yezin spams from above, and now just getting back onto the high ground, but gets stunned out, immediately halted in. The shield doesn't even matter.
That was some really good layering of CC from Sheer Cold, I have to say. They hit him with the McCree stun, they wait for the shield to come out, and then they hit him with the Brigitte stun as well. Blow him up. Totti gets blown up as well. And Sheer Cold continue this defense here on Route 66.
And this is the question. How do you break this if you are Avoided? Your composition has problems trying to go in on this with the high ground control that they have from Sheer Cold. They can just spam into you when you try to approach. Tractor Kid is the one that you need to rely on to do something, and has had trouble so far coming back in, is able to knock some players away off of the high ground, but maybe not as much as he would have liked. Then now he has to wait for his cooldowns to come back.
And he's actually just caught in a room here, but they are going to be saved by the rest of Avoided, so the fight not over yet.
And now they finally get one. Graythen gets hit with the rocket, and now Tractor Kid can just worry about those players that are towards the cart. Halt players in, helps Yesin build up to the barrage. An opportunity to potentially use it here and make sure that they win this fight. Waiting for a moment, now throws it out, and Alex will go down. But it's still a fight that you're in. If you're sheer cold, Duplicate coming out, you have another Orisa in from Backbone, and Backbone staying up at least for the moment, loses that ultimate, but still this stall works at least for the moment it does. And now Rally getting commuted in by sheer cold, and Backbone gets taken out, so you lose so much damage. It's all on to Graythen now to try and keep this in, and they're doing it with Alex coming back in.
What just happened? What did I just see? What just happened? I mean, that looked like it was avoided going to win that easily. And then Sheer Gold somehow in the last second is able to clutch that out. Nuts play coming out from Sheer Cold there. The rally from Refid, I was skeptical when I first saw it, but it was a huge, huge part of their clutching there. And they're able to hold just at the very death.
Sheer Cold losing Backbone though early, Kenobi, could be disastrous. They use the supercharger in response, still keeping the players at bay for Avoided, but they can just wait out there that supercharger, and now they can aggress with the supercharger of their own. Amplification Matrix though is keeping them away at least for the moment, so Ultimate's being traded out for either of these teams. Graythen trying to deal with the Wrecking Ball, but not able to do a whole lot just yet. The Mercy extremely low, and Graythen on the flank is able to take care of the Immortality Field, but his team is dying near the card is the only problem. It's all on Graythen. Graythen's still managing to get so much value, but his team, there's just too many players that have fallen.
And I think they do get the finally Avoided gets that point after a very long fought battle, Labasco, I would say. But Sheer Cold, the defense isn't able to stand up, and Avoided takes that first point. They're walking into this next point, or this next phase rather, with a lot of ultimates to work with Labasco. They have the Rip Tire. Sheer Cold has been very good though so far at dealing with it. We'll see how they deal with this one.
And you're going to have the use of the Rip Tire come out from Toddy, and Backbone can't even get out of where that third point is. So this is going to be a lot of ground that they're going to be able to make up for Avoided with that ultimate getting that stagger kill.
We're waiting on Sheer Cold to come back, and as you just see Tati spamming through this chokehold. This is what this composition's good at, Labasco, just spamming and getting a lot of damage done.
You can eat a lot of that spam, though, if you are the Sigma, and there's the ultimate coming through, and Backbone. It's like shooting fish in a barrel when they get pulled up in the sky like that. Throw those sticky bombs out, and Alex getting immense value from the Sigma.
Some of the easiest kills Backbone is ever going to have, Labasco, so for Backbone, like you mentioned, fish in a barrel, more like fish in a gravitic flux. That doesn't roll off the tongue as well, though, unfortunately. So we're gonna put that one in. Yeah, I mean, same thing.
You know, they are enclosed in an area that's easy to shoot them. Now they're in the sky, but they can't move. So it's easy. What's also easy is when you're in a 1v1. Oh no, and the Immortality Field was too late. Backbone able to quickly dismantle what T Sorcerer was trying to do. But the card is still moving. Avoided is still winning the fight.
Backbone died to a minefield that was on the roof. That's so tragic. He could have came back with Duplicate and held this point, but Labasco Avoided might take this second point right here. There is Shade back on that Hammond, though, to stall.
Just in for stall tactics, too. Has been playing the Orisa most of the time. Toddy now going to use the ultimate Rip Tire, looking for Backbone. At least helps get him out of the all. But Graythen has switched over to the Tracer and was able to deal with Tati, at least for the moment. And now you still have it in control, though, for Avoided. They are so close to finishing this map. The stall is just that, a stall.
And now I'm a little bit worried for Sheer Cold here, Labasco, after Avoided takes this point, because, like we saw, again, the third point here on Route 66, very good for these spam compositions like the Junkrat, like the Pharah. They're going to get an insane amount of value here with 2 minutes left. They could very easily cap here. It's not out of the realm of possibility, Labasco.
They don't have any ultimates yet, though, is the one good thing. They are close to the Amplification Matrix and the Valkyrie, so almost have those support ultimates. On the other side, you had players switch off to things to get back quickly. So Sheer Cold's economy right now not in a great spot, but Alex is about to get the Gravitic Flux. And Yesin building quickly to another barrage, looking to get one of those direct rockets into the halt. Now throwing damage through the amplification. Matrix Gravitic Flux pulling players up. Nothing yet, though, coming as a result of it. Nobody going down, so not a lot of value yet. And Alex finally able to making some value on this Sigma, trying to deal, though, with Tractor Kid, who is spamming into him with no problem. Accretion Rock out will force Tractor Kid back, and finally they can stabilize.
1 minute left, Labasco. That's all that Avoided is going to have to try and keep their hopes alive in this series. Blizzard available and the Drip Tire as well, the key ultimates that they need to continue to push this card.
No ultimates up on the other side, too, for Sheer Cold. So you have yourself an advantage there for Avoided. The possibility of finishing this map well within your grasp, and that's the first domino that can get you to that, with Graythan going down. Yesin with another elimination. This Pharah finding so much value and has the barrage too, but they're taking too long to take care of the tanks of Sheer Cold. So now you're just taking so much time, you're going to be in overtime when you try and get this map finished.
I mean, the ultimate patience, though, is absolutely insane from Avoided there. They take that fight so long that everyone on their team basically is able to farm towards an ultimate. They keep the Riptire, they keep the Barrage, they keep the Supercharger. The important ultimates they all get to keep for this last fight here.
Amplification Matrix, the first one they're going to use. Toddy waiting with that tire along the wall, trying to silence it as much as he can. Doesn't quite do what it used to. Can't get any value with the ult. The barrage is still available, though, and Shade is out. Amplification Matrix down. The barrage is free. Nothing that can be done. Backbone does manage to get a little bit of help to get one down, as Yesin is going to fall, but they do complete the map. We will have extra time here on Route 66.
And again, it was Avoided in that last fight. The fact that the fight before the last one that we saw, they were able to keep all of their ultimates, really won them, or really not won them, but it won them that last fight in terms of being able to just basically smack Sheer Cold with their wallets. Like, there's nothing that they could do because they had such an ultimate disadvantage going up against what Avoided had. So for Sheer Cold, a little bit risky here. You know, I'm a little bit worried that this composition, at least if it gets to point C, is just almost unbeatable for them.
It has to get there again, though, is the only problem. And that's the one thing here when you look at the time banks available for both of these teams. Kenobi Avoided only a minute to try and push as far as they possibly can to try and get themselves a win and keep this game going. So it's a tall task ahead for them. It's really easy when you're like Jeff Bezos and you have the giant pile and you can just drop it on someone, but everything starts fresh here, 0%, so you don't have that ultimate bank to work with.
Do you realize in that picture of the McCree and the dartboard, no one hit him in the face? Like, they missed. Like, all of them missed. Whoever's throwing those darts was not good.
Yeah, the gang needs to find some members with better aim. They're sort of like stormtroopers, Kenobi.
I mean, especially if you're trying to hit McCree, because he don't miss. That guy don't miss.
And it's high noon somewhere, so you know he's definitely not missing when that happens. So just too much to deal with.
I'm so sorry, chat, for what we're doing here.
It happens. You know, Graythan is playing McCree, and he is hitting shots, so has to hit them here. They know that the Wrecking Ball is going to be coming in, so they already forced back Tractor Kid to have to retreat to health packs. And nice couple headshot dinks coming through from Graythan. They are at least controlling the high ground, but they are so cognizant of where Tractor Kid is. They know that that's what they're looking for Avoided to create an advantage. And Graythan is going to die to the Junkrat and Tati, who went onto the flank too. So too much paying attention to the Wrecking Ball could be disastrous.
I mean, Tractor Kid is living in the heads of Sheer Cold rent-free right now, causing so much disruption in the backline. And Avoided's composition really gets the most value when it's these, like, really scrappy, drawn-out fights where there's a lot of stuff going wrong for Sheer Cold, and going wrong, their support is dead, their main tank is dead, Lasco. This is disastrous.
This is going to be a point for Avoided as long as they stay alive. Graythan is able to at least take Pharah out of the sky, but the res will come back in, and Avoided still in control. Backbone can do nothing but die on the cart, and that's all Graythan can do either. this is a very good 1-minute push that you're getting from Avoided.
And you can also very easily snowball this Labasco. You have the ultimates to do it. Tire the main one, which takes a lot of time off the clock and can also just get kills. Same with Barrage. It can just basically end the fight before it even starts. So this 1 point could be expended into more, maybe a second point as well. And like we talked about, once they get to the 3rd point with this composition, it wins inherently against the one from Sheer Cold.
All the spam damage coming out too does give Alex a lot of shield, though. Had the kinetic grasp to make sure that you can build up a good shield base as these ultimates do start to come out. The Riptire, the first one, the Brigitte misses it, and it's going to find value. Alex is the target, and losing out on your Sigma means you lose out on the shield, the kinetic grasp, a lot less that you can do utility-wise. And these mines easily can be taken care of by Yesin, so they can keep this card tracking. Deadeye traded out for the Barrage, and now is still trading out, trying to stop this cart. Here is Sheer Cold, starting to create an advantage for themselves.
The Fair is back in the fight, though. Labasco being pocketed by the Valkyrie Mercy. She's so low. She stays alive.
So many low targets, but the Supercharger keeping Avoided in front in this, and with the front line falling, it becomes that much more difficult. The beam wasn't available to take down those low targets. Grayson has made the switch over to the Soldier to get back quickly, and the Soldier making a difference. They just have to deal with Mini-Me now, so the spawns being closer ends up helping Sheer Cold in the end, but that is still a great push that comes through for Avoided.
With only a minute left, that's definitely a push you'll take if you're Avoided. And for Sheer Cold, the win condition is now set for them. Just need to get it to that 73.5 meter mark, and they will be taking this series. And I wonder what's going through the minds of Sheer Cold right now playing against this composition. I wonder what they're thinking. Like, I hate Junkrat. I hate Farah. Like, why do we have to... I hate Hammond is actually the one that they're probably saying the most, because Tractor Kid has just been, like I said, living inside their head rent-free this entire map so far, and they're just so scared about where it's going to come from next. It's like a horror game.
And it's understandable that they would be, because the Wrecking Ball wants to displace you, wants to push you from the area where you're playing. You know, if you're playing on that high ground on Big Earls, they don't want you there when they're the spam composition. So of course that's what the Wrecking Ball is, something that they have to pay attention to, right?
Right, and it's also very difficult for them because Hammond, at a lot of these points when it goes, there's not a lot of like burst damage for Sheer Cold to deal with Hammond. It's really only if the Echo is able to get a nice sticky bomb and then you burst them down with your focusing beam. Besides that, there's not too much burst for them to take out this Hammond, who has, 800 health, 900 health, depending on how much health they get from those shields.
And the shields can be such a massive thing. Grayson, at least at the start, was showing us Widowmaker is going to switch over to the McCree again. Not too much of a surprise, just looking for that early pick. Doesn't manage to find anything, though. And now we'll go back to the McCree that we've seen Grayson play pretty much the entire time. Backbone looking to spam out onto that high ground where Mini-Me and Co. are. Of course, you have Tractor Kid on the flank, waiting for that perfect opportunity to come in. Not going to be taken down and is able to escape, so it's a successful harass in, but the cart still moves for Sheer Cold.
We're seeing, we get some nice shots there. Looser almost gets some kills, but not quite.
So not quite able to, but you're still keeping the cart moving. That's the important thing. But Backbone is going to be taken down by Tractor Kid, so you lose out on a lot of your burst damage. And now in the sky, the Farah is the one to fall next. Yesin, and then one shot away from taking out from getting Hampy, who's on that Mercy. But this is still not too bad of a spot to be in if you're Sheer Cold. But now you have the amplification matrix that you have to try and deal with. And Alex on this flank.
There's so many low health bars right now for Avoided. Totally gets started without. Mini-Me goes down. That's no main tank.
Now that you have no main tank and you don't have a shield, you can very easily deal with the supports on the side of Avoided. And Grayson can just free fire from the high ground. This should be this point taken. We're getting down to 15 seconds too for Sheer Cold. So it's going to be an overtime push that they're going to have if they want to win.
And the worst part about this is that Avoided, for Sheer Cold at least, Avoided took a lot of time off the clock, which means, like you mentioned, it is going to be that overtime. And Avoided have ultimates that can basically end this fight right here, right now, with the Riptire, with the Barrage as well. Sheercold has to play extremely carefully around all of these.
Has other ultimates up. The Valkyrie not enough to keep Yesin alive in the sky, though, so you already got out an important cooldown in the res. Riptire from behind, and the Riptire is going to get the Immortality Field and the Supercharger. Doesn't get any kills, but that utility gone can be the difference, especially now that Tati is free to throw in the mines and the barrage from above from Yesin. Spamming out, though. Graythan not done yet. Gets taken down. Same thing with Backbone, and this fight going in favor of Avoided as they win this map and force a third map.
Avoided scrap their way, I would say, to win there. And like I mentioned, where they did have that ultimate economy that they had built up because the fight on A had lasted so long. And those ultimates that we talked about really ended up mattering. The barrage, the Riptire that got a 3K on basically everything that wasn't a person. It was the Immortality Field, the Supercharger, and one other thing I believe, but that was such a scrappy map from both of these teams.
It's wild. You know, you felt like because there was only that one point where their composition feels like it's best at for Avoided, it's like, oh, that's a tough one to win when you have less time. But they managed to pull it out here, and they're making this composition work. You know, it's very reminiscent of another team that we've seen in the EU scene, Kenobi, that Mini-Me happened to just to be part of, you know.
I wonder who that is.
Yeah.
I wonder who that might be.
I don't know what team that might be, but when you look at it here for Avoided, this is, you know, with how...
Still no Genji. Like,
yeah,
we haven't seen any Genji still. And
no Ashe!
No Ashe either. I would expect continuously as we go through this series, and this is possibly the last game we're going to have, I don't expect anything to change realistically from Avoided if they were going to play this composition. I mean, especially on this map where Anubis is what we're going to. Junkrat's actually pretty good on Anubis.
Well,
so I think that could be something that we see here.
We do have one little change. Lightbringer is going to be pulled in for Avoided, and then it's Yesin who's being subbed out. So they do have at least a little bit of a change there as far as the DPS lineup is concerned.
Yeah, and I think before we do go into this break, or into this game, we are going to be going to a short 2-minute break, so don't go anywhere, chat. Don't touch that browser. I'm watching you. Don't do it.
welcome you back. We welcome you back to Contenders Trials. Labosco and Kenobi here, getting ready for what could be our final map. Temple of Anubis is where we're going to go. Kenobi, we said before the break, Avoided has made a swap. Lightbringer has been brought in as a sub, so potential change of composition that we could be seeing from Avoided.
And it says here on our handy-dandy team sheet that their favorite heroes are Torbjorn, Bastion, and Winston. So a lot of good options there. Could see some Torbjorn. Does have some probability to be played on Anubis defense. I would expect Totti to continue playing the Junkrat if that is something that they want to continue to do, especially on Anubis. It does have a lot of value shooting those mines through the chokeholds. So anything can happen really with Avoided.
Yeah, Torbjorn would be fun to see. I would be okay with that. Torbjorn's fun, more fun than the Bastion. So I'm just hoping it's not Bastion.
Bastion's not really in the greatest of places right now.
Yeah, exactly. So that's part of why I'm hoping it's not Bastion. And we'll find out here in just a second is the best part, though, Kenobi. But the one thing I think that we can expect is Minimi will, of course, still be anchoring the team on the Orisa. Minimi is one of the best, I think, Orisas in the game. I don't think that has changed. You know, there's a reason why Clockwork Vendetta works so well, and Minimi just knows that hero better than pretty much anybody.
I was going to say Clockwork Vendetta works so well because of the Torb, but, you know.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong about that, but it was also the synergies that were created with the Orisa. And
I mean, shout-outs to Engineer.
Speaking of Torb, yeah, shout-outs to Engineer. That was such a fun team. That really was. But Avoided is a fun team, too, because they bring us something different. We're seeing defensively, Backbone is staying on the Echo. Graythan, though, showing us the Ashe finally.
Yeah, so not going to be opting for the Genji again. Still very interesting to me. Maybe I think they might expect that there still is going to be a fair, or this is just Backbone. It's a comfort pick for him where he just wants to play the Echo more so than he wants to play something like the Genji. So we'll have to see what happens here when Avoided comes out of their spawn. Is Totti going to stay on this Symmetra? You can play a little bit around with those teleporters. It looks like it might be happening again.
Yeah, so we've seen Totti play it already in this game, so it is another thing. You're going to see them use it to teleport down on that low ground, and now putting down those turrets for those players. If they try to come onto the point, they actually were never able to fully rotate around, so very good job meeting them by sheer cold, cutting them off and not allowing for that teleporter to get value.
Yeah, really nice placement of themselves around where that TP was. Labosco sitting on the high ground. You saw Looser get a lot of damage done to the Symmetra as it pushed in, and now Totti has said, okay, the Symmetra experiment has just failed, and now I'm going to be going on to Junkrat, my tried and true, my trusty Australian rat, I guess.
Your standard crazy Australian man. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because Junkrat is, he's got a peg leg. It just comes with the territory, I guess. Lightbringer able to take out the Immortality field at the beginning here. Avoided, though, getting so low, and now have to deal with the Bob. Tractor Kid is able to eliminate Alex, but the damage is too much from sheer cold. They have been forced into this small room for Avoided, and one thing you can't do in a small room is avoid all the damage coming through from sheer cold.
They're just going on to them here. Ashe is trying to duel with the Hammond. I don't know if that's one that Ashe is going to win. Rally committed, actually, here from Avoided.
So they're still trying to stay in this. You have the amplification matrix, though, coming down from sheer cold. Lightbringer is able to get looser, though, so they lose out on a lot of healing is the only thing. Backbone tried to get the Torbjorn ultimate, but couldn't build up to it before dying. Still alive, but doesn't have that ultimate anymore. And on the high ground, they can't even deal with Graythan. Does get dropped down, has to be careful of the mines, shooting those out, and now throws out the dynamite to force players back.
Voided are still waiting here, and they're still trying to aggress onto the point. Another bot for Grafton. That's insane time that he's been able to charge his.
Grafton has been so good on this Ashe. Has been able to use the high ground effectively, and then also be able to use the coach gun to get away if there's too much pressure that ends up coming on. Backbone has been playing on a razor's edge, staying alive. Yeah, don't know why Lightbringer was there. I don't even know if that turret was able to actually get to anyone either. It's in a really weird position.
This is a weird fight, Lavasco. Just all things considered, it feels like it's lasted forever. As we see, Backbone is going to get pretty low to Tractor Kid, but the kill isn't going to go through. Avoided. The multi-core is ready and available for Lightbringer. Toti is down. It's a 5v6.
Ooh, but nice shots from Lightbringer. Gets Graffin off of that high ground, so you don't have to worry about that Ashe anymore. Ultimate comes out from Lightbringer, but it's not really in an area where anyone has to worry about it for sheer cold. But Alex on sheer cold, because he's able to stay on that high ground, is able to just use those hyper sears to great effect and keep sheer cold in front.
Alex is popping off right now on this Sigma. I talked about it a little bit before. He's one of the best Sigmas, I think, in EU, and showing his stuff right here with the huge gravitic flux. Backbone with the duplicate onto the Hammond is not going to get anything done, really, so that's an ultimate you might have wanted to have back for this next fight, because 25 seconds left, Labasco. This is last fight. Amplification Matrix ready and waiting for T-Sorcerer, and those Junkrat mines going through that is going to pump out a ton of damage.
And no ultimates available for sheer cold. Alex getting booped off of the high ground is in such a bad spot. He's able to live. He got out somehow, but now the Reptire is going to come through an Orm Immortality field to deal with it, but they spam right onto it. No chance for the Tire. They've got to get to the point now for Avoided. Finally getting their overtime meter has started. Toddy just throwing out as much damage as possible, but Looser is going to be the one finding the first kill for sheer cold, and now the advantage starts to turn, but now starting to come back in. T-Sorcerer pumping out so much healing, but now the Bob, too much from Graythan, and Backbone as well on the Echo. They stop this and full hold Avoided. 33% to win the map for sheer cold.
How, Labasco? How did Alex live that? I want to know. I want to like go in and like analyze that like frame by frame, because he looked dead to rights in a 1v6 there. I believe it was the Junkrat mine that actually booped him back to his team in that moment. But Alex, the absolute live lord that he is, stays alive, and then with the ultimates that Sheer Cold have, they're able to hold off that last attack from Avoided, and now very easy win condition set for Sheer Cold. I shouldn't say that because it is Avoided, and they have done a pretty good job on defense in a couple of the other rounds that we've seen so far. And against this composition, going through those chokes is going to be very difficult.
When you think about somebody like Sheer Cold too, or not Sheer Cold, the team, the player Alex. Alex has been around for a very long time. You know, player who used to play in some of the Go For Overwatch Cups that you and I used to do. Like, that's how long he's been around for. So, very good player in his own right, and has been a very good Sigma. And now 33%, I mean, that's all they need.
That's it's blast from the past from those Go Fors that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So, like you mentioned, 33% is all they need. They can play this a little bit slow. They just need to be very wary about feeding too much ult charge over towards mainly the DPS and Mini-Me, because if Junkrat is able to get that Tire quickly, they can rotate their ultimates very effectively, and they can hold this for 33%, and we were looking at a draw.
Yeah, it's definitely a better composition defensively than it is offensively, especially because Toddy is starting on the Junkrat, not starting on the Symmetra. So you get that value from Toddy immediately for that. And you can see they're being very careful with how they want to approach this for the side of Sheer Cold. Have to deal with that turret that's over on the high ground, able to take that out, and now they start to rotate over to that right side. It looks like they want to go to the high ground on the right, but Backbone, in the meantime, gets taken out by Lightbringer.
The rotations from Tractor Kid have been absolutely insane so far. Labasco rotates all the way up here, kills Alex as well. This Hammond play is really popping off.
Tati also doing pretty well, up to 60% already to the Riptire. Graythan can do nothing except die to Mini-Me, and this is the start that you needed to have. You were avoided.
See kills going through. This is just going to be kills for Avoided to get, and more ult charge for them as well. Look at that, Molten Core available for them. They have the Junkrat Riptire very soon as well. Going for more kills, gets in, gets out, Live Lords. Tractor Kid putting on an absolute clinic right now in Hammond's play.
It looked like a tractor trailer running over just anything in its path. That's what Tractor Kid did there.
We're waiting. Tire at the ready. Molten Core at the ready for Avoided. Sheer Cold has to pull out some ultimates in this next fight. There's the window. That's one already down.
Yeah, so Amplification Matrix from Avoided at the beginning. 2 minutes and 10 seconds, though, so still a lot of time. They wait out that ultimate, but they still have to start moving forward now. They're pushing towards that left side from looking at it from the defense. Toddy had a trap over there as they were starting to rotate. They do deal with that, no problem. And Toddy trying to get into a position here to Riptire, looking to maybe use it, knows that those players are really close to him. Lightbringer also with the ultimate too. Backbone just trying to take care of that turret and now stay alive as they finally do get to rotate over to this high ground as a 6.
They're wasting so much time, though, Labasco. It's been a minute where they've just been sitting here trying to rotate. They only have a minute and 30 seconds left. Haven't forced out that many ultimates. They do get the Molten Core, which is good for them. But in the meantime, Minimi has his Supercharger. There is going to be the mines available as well. And here's the fight.
Well, they end up going to the low ground, not going to the high ground. Out will come the Riptire, taking a very long flank. And in the meantime, though, the Bob is too much. Toddy's tire just took too long to get in there. And this is an easy cleanup and an easy win for Sheer Cold. Patience is a virtue for Sheer Cold to get this win and take it 2-1.
I think I would definitely call it that, Labasco. Patience and a really well-placed Bob from Grafton annihilates the entirety of Avoided, and Looser also gets a really nice 3K at the end. So for Sheer Cold, the persistence was what won them that match there, and they're able to take the series 2-1. They now are now 3-0 in terms of their record in Contenders Trials, and they've pulled away from the pack a little bit.
Yeah, they pull away. They don't pull away as much as they would have if this was a clean 2-0 from them, Kenobi. But the fact that you get the 2-1, that you take that 3-0 lead, it just puts you in such a more comfortable spot for the final 2 games that they'll have to play. For Avoided, yes, they aren't in as great of a spot because now they're even with Roar as far as the wins and the losses. But because that they got that, they were able to at least only lose 1 map. They go from a +3 to a +2 instead of a +1. So they're actually above Roar as far as the standings are concerned for Group B. So the fact they get 1 map could become a very pivotal thing with the final 2 days.
Yeah, and I'm also wondering, I wonder what Avoided is going to do, because it seems like this composition that they have is the one that they want to play basically forever. We didn't see any Genji from either team in the series, which was shocking to me personally. And for Avoided, there are some nice things about this composition. The way that they play it specifically, I mean, the Hammond play was really, really good throughout a lot of this, and it just wasn't enough, unfortunately, to take them over that edge and win the series. But there are some bright spots for this composition that I can see on specific maps.
The nice thing about a team like Avoided, Kenobi, is that it challenges the conventions of what is meta. It makes teams have to figure things out, and it can cause innovation. So that's, I think, the cool thing about a team like Avoided, and the fact that they are such a strong team too. So we need teams like Avoided in Overwatch, because the only way innovation happens is if somebody's going to try something different. Yeah,
and I think we are going to have an interview. Labasco, I believe it is going to be with Refid. Oh, it's their birthday. Okay, it's their birthday. Okay, we have to sing for it, right? What?
And we're joined by Refid. And first off, we were told it's your birthday, so happy birthday and congrats on winning.
Hello. Thank you very much, by the way.
We were gonna sing, but we were told not to. So.
Well, all good. We'd have to sing like that other birthday song, because like if you sing the normal happy birthday song, it's like copyrighted or something, or whatever.
I see.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. I don't know. There's certain phrases you can't say when you're broadcasting, it's goofy. But let's talk about that game, because the composition that Avoided was playing is not really a standard composition from what we've been seeing as far as the meta is concerned, but you guys seem to have at least what you thought was an answer to it.
Yes, we did. We definitely had some struggles against the comp. Obviously, it's a very interesting comp that you usually don't see and you don't stream against. So we had like zero practice basically going into the match. We just some theory crafting, of course, to see like what we can actually do and what do we want to play against the comp. And I think we just managed to pull that off quite well. What we talked about like pre-match basically.
Yeah, what was your thought process behind picking this specific hero? Because your DPS lineup was the McCree and it was the Echo rather, but didn't see any Genji whatsoever. So what was the thought process behind picking those two DPS heroes?
We figured that McCree with the stun would be a great addition to our like team basically in terms of like stunning the ball. It was our main concern that we like look to like stun as many like we wanted to disrupt them as much as possible. Also, the Kree was really good at like dealing with the Pharah basically because we knew they had like a Pharah player, and we wanted to deal with them. And the Echo was basically also there just to like deny the Pharah the space in the air basically, and also to like when we stun the ball basically, just burn him down as fast as possible with this with the beam basically. Yeah.
It was something you guys did really well too. It's especially towards the end. It seemed like Temple of Anubis is where you guys really had things click, especially defensively. Because I mean, the full hold there with what felt like a fight the entire time. I mean, as far as Temple of Anubis is concerned, like what about that map made it where you guys were able to do that?
Sorry, say again.
What about the map made it where it was easier for you guys to have that full hold?
I feel like that map was especially hard to deal with, like in terms of the enemy team attacking. I felt like there were like little possibilities that they could like actually disrupt us. Also, like for example, the ball of course he has some little room to like loop us off the high ground there. He has only like 2 or 3 routes that he can actually come from. I messed up one time where I let him like go like behind us, I think, and then he looped off Alex, and I think he died because of that. That was kind of my bad. But other than that, I think we managed to like get a good hold of the map in terms of like controlling space, basically.
Alex,
speaking of Alex, what were the comms like when it was like last fight and he gets booped into like a room with like 6 other people and he somehow lives? Like, were you guys just like freaking out completely? Is like, we gotta save him, we gotta save him.
Yes, basically. It was just not a mess, I would say. It was just help Alex, help Alex, help Alex. It was all about Alex, and I called I think I was 2% off of rally, and I think I threw an armor pack them and then just rally him, and I think he got booped out by the junglet mine or so. I was so concerned about him at that point that like as he got out, I was just so relaxed after, and I managed to like pull back the focus onto the enemy team that was actively rushing into us basically at the time.
It was awesome to see though, that's for sure. And the patience on your attack for Temple of Anubis too, I thought was really like Kenobi was talking about it, because it was like you guys waited out so many ultimates there before you finally decided to go in. How do you stay that patient for one? Because like that just seems I mean, it's Overwatch. I mean, nobody's patient.
We actually didn't really think about a plan on how to attack at that point. Like we knew what to do basically. We wanted to pressure them in main a little bit, and at that point we just thought about like stacking up many ults and trying to bait out as many ults from the enemy team as possible when we like push in or do some rotations or so, and then like collapse onto them with every ult possible that we had. And I think that happened in the 2nd or 3rd fight where we had window, and then we obviously started with window and did hired, so we I think Graven got a clutch bob onto the point, which actually got us 2 kills. Yeah, it was insane that he got that bob off there. And I think those 2 kills from the bob there actually won us the map kinda. So yeah.
It was a yeah. I was gonna say, anything else, Kenobi?
Oh, happy birthday again. I mean, it's gotta feel good to win on your birthday.
Yes, definitely. It was so close as well. Like we were 1-1, and I was just, my heart's still racing kinda, I have to say. Like it's just a great feeling to win on your birthday as well. It was the nicest present the team could have gotten me, basically.
Yeah, it almost, I mean, puts you guys in such a good position too to get into contenders as well. So good luck in those last 2 matches, and hopefully the couple days after your birthday are just as good as today too.
I hope so. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for coming and talking for us here with a minute, but that's, I think, going to do it here for us. It's been a fun day here of EU Contenders. Kenobi, I mean, talk about a wild way for it to end too. Some fun games. Both games went to 3 maps.
Yeah, both teams went through 3 maps. No 4 mappers just yet, but we did have a lot of good games so far in this day that we did. Just for those of you who are just catching up right now, I'm just going to go down the list of a little bit of what we had in the previous games. We had Yab beat Fox Nihili 2-1 in Group A. Then we had HSL lose 2-0 to Dreadlords, also in Group A. And then here for Group B, you just saw Sheer Cold and Avoided. Sheer Cold wins that 2-1. Roar Esports was able to beat Fostic Gaming 2-1, and Angry Titans beat the Ultimates 2-1. So that is the results that we had for today. 2 teams at the top of each group, 3-0. We have Young and Beautiful, and we now have Sheer.
Yep, so it's going to be a fun final 2 days. Thanks again for sticking around with us and watching this. Thanks again to Refid for joining us here and talking to us after the win for Sheer Cold. And thanks to V-Flight and the rest of the production crew that make this all possible with Monkey Bubble. But that's going to do it here for us for this one. We'll see you tomorrow. There's still more Contenders trials on the way. So we'll see you then.